Word Balloon is brought to you by the League of Word Balloon Listeners.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back. It's Word Balloon, the comic book conversation show. John Suntress here. Tom King has just texted me that his internet dropped. So I'm sure he's rebooting and working on things. I'm happy to talk to you in the meantime. First of all, to tell you, if you haven't been paying attention, Baltimore Comic-Con coming in a couple of weeks, the 23rd, 24th, and 25th of October. Mainframe Comic-Con and myself, we're all part of the plan, and we are booking. We are planning, we are creating panels, and it is very, very exciting. Pardon me as I burp. Can I tell you about some of the people that are joining us? How about Garth Ennis? Spotlight with Garth Ennis, expect that. How about a spotlight with Dave Gibbons? How about a reunion of the Justice League Bwahaha team of J.M. DeMatteis, Kevin McGuire, and Keith Giffen, all happening at Baltimore Comic-Con? How about Shelley Bond interviewing as editor the creators behind Bitterroot, Chuck Brown, Sanford Green, Dave Walker, all part of Baltimore Comic-Con. Streets of Gotham, going to be a great panel featuring Tom King, also Joelle Jones and Cecil Castellucci, among others. I believe Philip Kennedy Johnson will be joining us on that panel as well. Pretty cool stuff. So, all of this is coming up in just a couple weeks. Baltimore Comic-Con. Check out more details. Go to Baltimore Comic-Con Live, the website for the convention, and that's where we'll be doing the panels from. They will also be appearing here on the Word Balloon channel. We got a lot of really cool people lined up for Baltimore Comic-Con. Like I said, Joelle Jones, Cecil Castellucci, dear friends like Susan Eisenberg is going to be joining us with a very special voiceover panel that I will give you more details with as the days get closer. It's going to blow your mind. Let me just say that. Brian Bendis will be talking to Jerry Conway, and that's going to be a great panel where it's going to be creator to creator, a great conversation. So we will be discussing that and a whole lot more. I'm just checking right now to see if Tom is getting closer to coming to join us regarding his internet. He's contacting me by phone. But hey, let's say hello to some people right now. John, good to see you. Thank you very much for joining us tonight. Chaos in Comics. I just want to say after that debate, I agree with Ozymandias. Yeah, I can't disagree, man. I know this is like hopefully a nice little comforting bomb. We won't talk much about the debate, if all. I have no plans to do it. I think that debate, unfortunately, spoke for itself. Can't wait for some relief after that debate to talk about some happy comics like Rorschach. Wait a minute. Yeah, I don't know if that's a happy comic. Man, are you guys reading Strange Adventures? I'm sure you are if you're tuning in for this conversation with Tom. I got to tell you, man, 5 issues in. I imagine we're going to get the next issue. Is it this Wednesday? Is it tomorrow? It's either tomorrow or it's next week. Can't wait to check that out. So, yes, it is a perfect palate cleanser after that debate. Yes, I agree, Rick. Rick Lee James, everybody, a fine musician, if you're not aware. An excellent songwriter and singer. Gore Vidal, good evening. Just finished watching the debates. I hope your brain is okay there, Gore. I hope it didn't scramble too much. So let's see. Is Baltimore online and free for everyone? Yes, Charlie. That's why I'm touting it. It is absolutely free. It's going to be an online convention. It's going to be free for everyone. We got a lot of really cool programming we're going to be doing starting on Friday evening all the way through Sunday evening. We're doing panels throughout the day, but we are going to do a lot of panels in the evening hours to make sure that the West Coast is taken care of. But also to accommodate a lot of British creators, people like Dave Gibbons. You'll expect that sometime in the early afternoon, East Coast time. But and that's so that, poor Dave doesn't have to stay up till midnight to talk to us. But no, we're really excited about a lot of the panels that we're planning. Joe Henderson from Lucifer is going to be there for all the Lucy fans to talk about the first half of season 5, tease the second half of season 5. They are in production for season 6, and Joe is going to be there for all the Lucy fans. So that's going to be really cool. Let's see here. John, I need some good entertainment after this dumpster fire. Yeah, I agree with you, Wayne. God, even in Canada, they're complaining about the U.S. debate. I can't blame you, man. So, Denny Dude, good to see you. Thank you very much for checking in. And let's see here. Thank you, Mason. Excited as well for the interview with Tom. Let me check my phone and see if there's an update from Mr. Kang. Uh-oh. Let's see what's happening here. Oh, I see. Yes. He is showing me his Xfinity box right now is 1 dot. So it's slow to hook up. And, I don't worry, everybody. I'm not going away. We'll give Tom a chance to get the internet back up and running, and hopefully we'll be able to talk to him. God, worst comes to worst, I suppose I could put him on speakerphone and hold it up to the microphone. Is my sound okay, everybody? I hope so. I really had a microphone problem at the end of last week and the beginning of this week, doing the horror panel that we did on Friday with the Seeleys and Mike Marisi, and then also with Ram V on Monday afternoon. I was able to fix everything by last night. The Steel Freeze conversation went just fine. And, thanks, man. That's really nice, Greg. I appreciate that. And you chimed in on that Steel Freeze conversation. You said it was so good last night. Can't wait for this one. Well, I quite agree. Let's see what happens here. Okay, yeah, he's telling me that right now it's Comcast that has the internet issue. Nothing to do but wait. That's fine, man. Everything's going to be good now. Wayne, you're telling me everything sounds good. All the guys, everyone's saying that I sound okay. Great. I'm glad to hear that. Thank you, Mario. Hey, Brian Peck. Good to see you, buddy. Good old radio buddy, Brian Peck. Thank you, man. I kind of let myself get a little fuzzy. I didn't shave. Or either that or my beard grew out of outrage watching the debate. So, Brian Peck, a fine voiceover actor as well as a fine radio man as well. One of my favorite people in radio. I miss you, Brian. Jared Flowers, excited for the show. Thank you, Jared. I certainly hope that Tom will be joining us shortly. Again, right now the onus is on Comcast and Xfinity to get Tom's internet going. I had a senior moment there. You'll excuse me. I haven't heard the Steel Freeze Convo. Looking forward to that. He's an amazing artist. Yes, Ben Hayes. So we talked last night. I posted it as well as a Word Balloon audio today. And hopefully, Tom will be able to join us, and I'll be posting this one. Worst comes to worst, everybody, and I know it sucks if Tom still has some internet issues. Yeah, he's saying sorry right now. It's all good, Tom. Don't worry about it. I'm going to even tell him right now. All good, man. We're standing by waiting for you. All good, man. We're standing by waiting for you. There we go. Echo. Yeah, the Steel Freeze conversation was great. Oh, thank you, John. Just listened to it. He enjoyed it. I appreciate hearing that. Honestly, everybody, this is the reason why we're doing Word Balloon Lives is involving you as the League of Word Balloon listeners and all of you watching on Facebook and on YouTube to have the opportunity to talk to Mr. Kang and talk to our other fine guests. Tomorrow night, Vita Ayala will be joining us. I've been meaning to talk to them since they were on John Con a couple of months ago, and I thought they were hilarious. So I've been looking forward to having a conversation. Ram was fantastic as well. If you haven't heard the Ram V conversation from yesterday, I'll tell you, man, I think that guy's a hell of a writer. And I really love what's happening right now with Catwoman. And everything that's happening in the Joker War is intriguing. And we'll see what happens with it. Let's see here. Oh, there we go. Thank you very much, Benji. I appreciate that. Yes, I'm sorry that I don't have the witness protection voice going. Yes, I'm sorry. I worked for the tobacco company for 15 years, and I had no idea such bad things were going on. Yeah, right. All right, fantastic. More comments from everybody. All right, Jared's excited to hear Vita tomorrow. I agree, man. Let me tell you. Brad, thanks for doing the live. StreamYard is a lot of fun and so user-friendly. Thanks for bringing intelligent comic conversation for years. Well, that's very kind, Brad. That's the intent. I can only do so much. And, yeah, Wayne, I agree with you. I'm also looking forward to Batcat in December. I've talked to Clayman and Tom about it off the record, and I know they're both very excited about the project, as am I. And Clay's been working really hard on it. And, he's a hell of an artist and always worth the wait. So it's going to be very interesting to see, how much the Joker War impacts Batcat and everything that's been going on in the Batman world. I mean, God, Catwoman just stole the Wayne Foundation fortune from Joker and gave it to Luke Fox. What does that mean? Where does that go? What is Batman like without the Wayne money behind him? What is a working class Batman like? Probably the same. I mean, the knuckles will probably hurt the same, don't you think? The pause that refreshes. That's cranberry juice and pomegranate juice mixed together. No, let me tell you. Any plans to check in with the fractions? I love to hang out during Mainframe Comic-Con. Well, that just happened last month. So I kind of wanted to give the fractions a bit of a break. However, Matt will be joining us with Elsa Chartier to talk about November in just a couple of weeks. But now it's time to have him join us. There he is, the man, the myth, the legend. It's all right, buddy. We everyone knows it was all internet problems. It's good that you're on. Tom King, everybody, say hello.
How's it going? I'm pumped. I just watched the debate, and then they shut down the internet in Washington, D.C., so things are going fucking well. Oh, my God.
All right, turn off the internet so I don't want to have to hear the chatter after that.
God, I wouldn't be surprised. Hi, how's it going?
Hey, everything's
I'm rushing
great,
in. It's wonderful to see you, John. I'm incredibly looking forward to this. I'm looking forward to talking to you as a friend. I listen to your podcast obsessively. I subscribe. You should all subscribe to the Patreon. You've had some amazing talks lately. The Jerry Conway talk was amazing, blew my mind. And the Clay talk was amazing. B. Claymore talk was just. If I had to recommend two, those are great. It's sort of almost like a contemporary look at what it means to struggle into this, and sort of an overview from a guy who's been everything in Jerry Conway and still is rocking the game. So I'd recommend those as incredible listens.
Thanks, buddy. And I appreciate that. And I had two other ones yesterday. It was. Rom V, cheers, and Brian Stelfreeze.
I already listened to Brian. So fucking hard. Yeah, listen to Brian.
Thanks, buddy.
Dude, Brian is the funniest guy on earth if you ever give him a bar. Nobody makes me laugh harder in comics than Brian.
That's good to know. No, he was
dead.
Seriously, people like Norton have told, you got to have Brian Stelfreeze on your show. And I'm like, no, I know, man. I just haven't had the opportunity. And his new Kickstarter opened that door for me, so it was great.
Oh yeah, I'm supporting it. I didn't know about it till listen, so I'm going out and supporting that stuff for Kickstarter. Yeah, I associate Brian with Black Panther, which is such like this, dour, serious book about changing the world and sort of. But then you talk to him in person, and he's like the Marx Brothers, man. He'll have it on the floor in 10 seconds.
Great guy, absolutely, and yeah, it was so
and
funny.
brilliant artist and writer too.
I completely agree. No, I'm psyched for Thomas River.
I'm mad at him because we were supposed to do. He said on your podcast, he's like, I always want to do Catwoman, and I ran into him at a con. I was like, let's do something on the Batman run. Come on, we'll do anything. I don't care what it is. And he's like, you want to do Catwoman Super Spy? I was like, hell yeah, let's get that done. And somehow we never made it happen. And now he's doing a Super Spy thing and says he just wants to do a Catwoman thing. I was like, oh, what a missed opportunity.
Well, it's not, please, there's still opportunities. What are you talking about? It's just not right now. That's all. That's all right.
It's just not right now. He only works with Pulitzer Prize winners. I get it.
Stop. You know that's not true. Hold on a minute. John Holland says, Tom, your Batman is one of the few Batman comics I've read in years and enjoyed. So good.
See, we found the one guy. I knew he had to be out there. I've been searching for you. I salute you. Oh, that was really very kind of you. I cannot say how much that warms my heart. I'm super proud of that and everything.
Ooh, that's a good question. Does your hat mean you're taking over from Bendis
my hat's
on one or both of the Superman books? You taking over Superman, Tom?
Yes, I'm announcing it. No, I'm not taking over Superman. No, I'm working on a super project right now, but that's not taking over the Superman thing. My hat just means that I love Superman, and it's not. I didn't like I ever said this when I was young. I thought Superman was for old, boring people, and I was young and cool, and I didn't even Batman. I liked X-Men. They're the young cool people. Now that I happen to be an old boring man, I love Superman. So if time changes you, I since I wrote him on that Up in the Sky, I've fallen absolutely in love with that character, like everyone who writes him I feel does. So no, it just expresses my love for, I don't know, maybe my favorite comic book character of all time, Superman.
That's awesome, man. That's excellent. Hey,
it's a perfect piece of pop culture.
Thank you for agreeing to be part of Baltimore Comic-Con coming up next month, the 23rd, 4th, and 5th. And
yes.
And we've you and I have discussed off the air. You're going to be part of a Streets of Gotham panel.
Yeah.
And then also a fun panel called Kirby's Fourth World Remixed.
Oh, I know something about Kirby's Fourth World. I'm ready to go.
And you and Cecil Castellucci, I think that's going to be a lot of fun.
Oh, me and Cecil. Okay, yeah. I love Baltimore was my original con. It was the first con. I didn't go to cons growing up. I grew up in LA where they have cons, but I didn't go to them. I think I was too scared of other comic book fans because I thought they'd realize what a nerd I was. So the first con I ever went to in my life was after I left CIA in 2008-9. I went to Baltimore Comic Con because I live in DC. It's an hour away. It used to be our only big con. Now we have Awesome Con. And since that date, I've gone every single year, and I have utter loyalty to that show. It's fantastically run. It's good people. The Ringos are wonderfully exciting, and it's one of my favorite places. So I never say no to anything in Baltimore. They were so kind to me back in the day when I had nothing, when I was hand selling a book. They gave me a table by the bathroom, which was the perfect location. So yeah, I'm all about Baltimore.
Hey, Drew Manchu is here. Good to see you, Drew. Drew, one of our fine Mainframe Comic-Con people as well, and a fine podcaster in his own right. Good to see you, my man.
What's up, man? What a pleasure. What is up with me? This is what is up with me. I just watched this debate, and I don't want to get political because people try to escape this. Lord knows I listen to Word Balloon to escape all the political stuff I used to do. But can I just say, look, I know that people don't have influence over anyone. Everyone votes the way they want to do. But if there's a possible chance that maybe you say, hey, Tom, you've lived a weird life. You were actually overseas. I actually chased terrorists. I got shot at. I captured them. I did that sort of thing for my country. I was also in the Prevent 9/11 branch. I stopped people from blowing stuff up. If you're like, that Tom, maybe some legitimate points of view. Or maybe you read my stuff. And you're like, man, I really like Mr. Miracle. I really like something Tom wrote in Batman. And you're like, maybe that guy has some aspect of anything. If you have if I have any influence over you, which I doubt I do, but just in case I fucking do, just on the minuscule chance I do, fucking go out and vote for Joe Biden. Don't. I'm not saying, vote for the fucking country I fought for, that I grew up in, that I love in my core of my being. I'm wearing my USO shirt. I got on my USO tour right now, is in fucking danger. And you got to go out there and vote like it's in danger. And this goes out, maybe I'm probably not reaching the dudes who read comics like me who are in their 40s. But I know some of you all are fucking 18-year-olds, because I was an 18-year-old. And I remember being like, I'm going to vote because I'm so politically conscious, and showing up and I had no idea what to do all of a sudden. And I literally ran back to my dorm and Googled, and before Google, I Yahoo'd Rock the Vote, because I had watched MTV, and I was like, Rock the Vote told me how to vote. And so MTV influenced me. So if you're an 18-year-old, I don't know what this voting fucking is, listen to a comic book creator and go out and fucking vote for Joe Biden. This guy, maybe you listen to me just because I live in downtown DC. I live a block from the Capitol. It's across the street from the Supreme Court. I can look out my window now and see candles to the vigil of RBG. And my wife works in she can see the government and see the goddamn corruption and big government. He's controlling weird ass things in this government. So maybe you listen to because I live in DC and I'm surrounded by this bullshit all the time. Fucking go out and vote for Joe Biden, please, please, please. That's all I'm saying. That's all the politics I'm putting out there. And I never fucking endorse people. That's ridiculous because I want everyone to read my comics. If comic books go down 10%, like fucking, if you're The Rock, The Rock endorsed Joe Biden, he's cool, man. He's The Rock, right? But if The Rock loses 10% of his audience, he's still got an audience of 500 million people, right? He's like, I lost 100 million. If a comic book creator loses 10%, we lose our jobs. So we're a little scared of losing 10% of our audience. But fuck it. I don't want to be scared anymore. We're not fucking scared of Trump. He's just a crazy orange person who doesn't even have any fucking money. So I also say the word fuck a lot, and I apologize. So I'm not scared. And if this makes you upset and makes you not read my comics, cool. Just fucking vote Biden. If you're out there, vote Biden. Get out there and vote. Be a man and do it. And be a woman. That's your duty as a goddamn American citizen. If this country gave you anything, give back a little bit and get out there and vote.
I agree. I'm sorry. I agree. I don't like this man. It's been 4 years of chaos. This debate showed how he shoots from the hip, has no plan, told you nothing of what he wants to do for the future. Joe Biden did. And there's a big difference between these two candidates. So, again, we'll move on to other things. But, yes, I agree with Tom. Go out and vote. Of course, I support Joe Biden. And if you don't agree, it's okay. Thanks a lot, everybody. Word Balloon is a copyright feature of Shaky Productions. Copyright 2020. Stay safe, stay happy, stay healthy. If you're leaving, I may as well give you the goodbye. But it doesn't look like anybody's leaving, so everything's fine. But anyway, I do want to go because there's a lot of questions, and I'm going to get to these before we get into us talking about Strange Adventures and the like.
So I want to talk comic books. I want to talk nerd. I want to talk. Fuck, you want to talk Bing Crosby and all the old shit? I'm ready to go.
Of course I do. I think that Tom and Bendis should switch books. Tom writes some good Superman. Brian writes some good Batman. I agree with all of that.
I'm off Batman. He's got to switch with James. If Bendis wants to take over Strange Adventures, it's not happening. And I saw him try to steal Mitch and Doc and get him. They both did Legion of Superhero pages. That's like he's just trying to. I see that. And I have David Mack's phone number. I'm just warning you. We can play this game. I'm ready to go.
Do you have a favorite Stealth Freeze work besides Black Panther? Greg wants to know.
No, I don't know. Do I have a favorite Stealth Freeze work besides Black Panther? No, I mean, I associate him with like the 90s Stealth Freeze when I close my mind. Like he used to be that. Yeah, I don't have a favorite work besides Black Panther. It's a good question. I don't know.
Ooh, PM Lost. You should make a Nightwing Batgirl book too. Okay.
Oh, I should. Well, Tim and I think we've talked about this publicly. We were going to do a Batgirl, although Batgirl hooked up with Jason today. I don't know if you saw that.
I did not see that. Wow.
Oh, dude, man.
Something new to talk to Cecil about. Uh-oh.
So
she likes the bad boy.
It was in the Three Jokers. Maybe it's Three Jasons, so maybe it's a different.
Oh, yeah. Wow. You see, I haven't, and of course, yes, DC, of course, releases on Tuesday rather than Wednesday. So I haven't gotten to that yet. Did you have Strange Adventures? Is it next week, the issue 6?
Yes, maybe. I don't really know.
Okay, because
no, I don't think it's next week. I think it must be a week after that. Okay. I think we got delayed a week because of some because it's a really big issue with Doc drawing a big war, and so it took him a little while longer and it's worth it. But he asked for an extra week and we gave it to him, and he deserved the extra week, and it's beautiful.
Drew says, loved your vision and curious what you think about the WandaVision trailer and some of the obvious influences they took from your run.
So wait, I'm going to answer the last question because I didn't get to it. Then I'm going to get to the WandaVision. Tim, Seeley, and I, who I know you just had on, we were offered to pitch for a Nightwing Barbara book as a romance comic. We were going to do a romance, like 12-issue romance series.
Wow.
And we pitched I remember Tim and I going over back and forth. But yeah, we were going to do a whole, guys on pirate ships with their shirts open. We were going to lean into it and just make it like sexy as hell. And, but that was it's one of the sort of early pitches, sort of the what ifs of my career, that we could have done this super romance between Barbara and Dick. because I think that's. Besides, Bat and Cat, obviously, I have sort of a soft part. But I even think, as much as I write Bat and Cat, I'm writing the Batman Catwoman. To me, the Barbara Dick relationship is the #1 romance in comics. I think. I could go wrong. I love Lois Lane Superman. I
think your generation. I think that's fair to say the Grayson Gordon. I mean, I said that as somebody slightly older than you. No, I get that, and I think they leaned into that really. Back in the 90s and stuff, and the Chuck Dixon years. So that's cool.
So I love that relationship, and I love leaning into it. Although apparently she just hooked up with Jason. So there's, I
got to read that. That's awesome, man. I'm so bummed for Cecil because I think her Batgirl run has been fantastic. I loved that Joker Barbara confrontation in issue 48. I think it was 48.
Cecil is an amazing writer. Cecil and my first signing I ever did in my whole life, when I had no idea how to sign my name in a book, I was sitting next to Cecil because she had it was for my novel, not for comics. And she had a novel that came out at the same time, and randomly Comic-Con put us together. And we were sitting right next to each other. And I was like, so do I take the book from them, or like the basic knowledge? And she was like coaching me. So she's been kind to me for 10 years. So yeah, I love her. She's awesome.
Were you on the call during John Con when she was saying how Cher forced her to watch Nightmare on Elm Street?
Cher?
Yeah, she grew up with Chaz Bono when Chaz was still Chastity. They were friends, and I guess Cecil came over to play one day, and Cher had gotten a advanced copy of a screener of Nightmare on Elm Street. And Cecil, in that great voice, says, I don't know if I want to watch that. And she's, and Cher's like, oh no, man, we're watching it. That's tough. You better sit down. And so of course, traumatized poor Cecil watching Nightmare on Elm Street at Cher's insistence.
Nightmare on Elm Street 3, not 1, was the first horror film I ever watched in my life. And to this day, I blame it for my sort of adversity to horror. I'd never sort of fallen into that genre the way some people do, because I saw it when I was probably 7, 8 years old. And as a 7, 8 year old boy, I was very stimulated by multiple parts of it. But I got nightmares for a month. I couldn't sleep. It was, it was one of those things where I watched, my parents were very divorced, and I watched it at my dad's house on Betamax. And then my mother found out and I couldn't sleep. So my mother was yelling at my father because he had shown this movie to me, which is so, yeah, I still to this day, Freddy freaks me out a little bit to this day. I can remember specific nightmares when I was 9 years old.
I hear you, man. Geez. Okay. I guess Mitch was saying, good to see you, Mitch, by the way, that the Legion stuff, there's so many characters in that book. Yes, indeed. Absolutely.
What? Mitch, I thought we were doing the Avengers JLA crossover next, man. I already called Jim. I gotta make some phone calls when this is done.
Is Clay going to be drawing Catwoman in her 40s costume in Batcat?
In her 40s costume? Which 40s costume? She has multiple costumes. She has the one with the big cat head. She has the purple dress and the whip, and she has the on the boat where she's just wearing a nice sort of
femme fatale,
femme fatale kind of thing. Is he going to? No, I don't think so. It debuts a new Catwoman costume. She's having a new costume in the present day, which is heavily inspired by the animated series costume, which if you go on the Twitter machine, which I'm not, but I think you probably go to websites, but Clay just posted it, and it's gorgeous. Oh. It's gorgeous. Yeah.
That's cool.
It takes from the sort of gray pinkish simplicity of the animated series. We're doing a lot of tributes to the animated series, of course, in a Phantasm book. So yeah, but I don't think we go back to any of the 40s. Although but that costume does appear. We're doing a Batcat annual. I don't think I've talked about this anywhere else, but there's a Batcat annual that's coming out eventually, which will be drawn by John Paulione, and that costume is in the Batcat annual.
Wow!
So you will see that costume in the JPL.
That's great.
The purple dress with the whip.
How's he doing, man? Is he doing all right?
He's doing all right. Yeah.
Good.
He's
JPL. Yeah.
Yeah. JPL. Yeah. I worked with, we were nominated for Eisner together years ago for a short story I wrote about black soldier in World War I. So we haven't worked together since then. So hopefully it'll be as well as that. Yeah.
I was talking to Ram V about his story in Catwoman 25, JPL. and he did a great job. And man, he's a sweetheart. He hasn't been on Word Balloon yet, but every time I see him, I always, at a con, I always, take a few minutes and check in with him. And I've been meaning to have him on Word Balloon, kind of like Brian Stelfreeze. It finally happened last night, for God's sake. So these things happen.
I have a JPL Sheriff of Babylon cover on my wall over there, which I can't show you because my computer doesn't swivel. But I should have the cover to number 1, which he was selling for some like $750 cheap ass at some con. But stupid fucking Mitch Garrett's, whoever that is, rushed over and bought it before I did, even though he knew I wanted it, and then kept it. Could have given it to me as a birthday present or something. I agreed to be the godfather of his child. I thought that maybe that would be the moment. He'd be like, thank you for agreeing. Here's the cover back. Nothing. That guy is ungrateful.
Jared wants to know what our favorite books are right now. And I can tell you, I'll start and say Ron V's jazz book that we were talking about last night, Blue on Green. He sent me an advance copy, and I was completely blown away. It's beautiful. I'm a jazz freak. It talks a lot about creativity. And the protagonist has a little supernatural thing kind of in the story, but it really is just about his own doubts about his talent. And it's great. I loved it. It blew my mind, and it was not what I was expecting. And it was a great exposure to Ron V on his own, when he's not working for one of the big two. And it was terrific. So that's the best thing I've read of late.
Best thing I've read, this is not going to be a surprise, but it's Brubaker and Phillips' Pulp. I thought it was exceptional. But just in terms of what I'm reading daily, because of all the bullshit that's going on, and because I have so many children that are stuck inside my very small house, my house has been flooded with Archie comics. And I can't, by flooded, they're on every surface in this house. You'll find an Archie comic, I'm sure, if I reach back there. And because it's something, I have an 11-year-old, a 10-year-old, and a 6-year-old. And it's one of the few things I can buy that all 3 of them will eventually pick up and read. And so it's almost like a 3 for every time I pay for it. That's awesome. I have been, and I was never Archie. I knew Archie just the way everyone does, but I never sort of read it on a regular basis as sort of a thing. Man. So I've been going back and I've been reading like all the Dan DeCarlo stuff, which is so freaking brilliant. One of the greatest cartoonists of all time. I had no idea. And the Bob Montana stuff even from the 40s and the 50s, and the Harry Lucy stuff. And so I've been going on an Archie binge, which is, and also the Kupperberg stuff, having listened to your stuff he did with Brayfogle, which I thought was just absolutely brilliant. I missed it at the time. If I'm talking I'm talking too fast. At the time I listened to the updates every day on iFanboy. Connor used to do an update on, and I remember that. Yeah,
Connor and I used to bond about. We're like, can you believe how good Archie is? And he's like, yeah, man, it's insane. And it was fantastic. Now that we're inching towards Halloween season, there's a great Archie Halloween story about a cursed teddy bear. The Archies are driving somewhere, and they get out of the rain, and they wind up at this abandoned mansion, and there's a toy teddy bear sitting there, and it has this weird possessive power over Betty. And Betty almost walks off a cliff, and it's seriously, it's one of the best Halloween stories. And the only way to, I can't even spoil it. Look up, there are blogs about this, and I've talked to Mike Pellerito and Alex Segura over at Archie about this story. It's the best. It's one of the best Halloween stories ever, and it genuinely is a chilling Archie story, and especially the way it ends. It's got a great ending where that it's like, Archie was always for last, but every now and then, and this was one of those every now and then. It was excellent, very good. And it's not a little Archie story; it's them as teenagers, and it's amazing. It's an incredible story. So.
No, Archie has a deeply dark side. It's kind of a little bit like Peanuts, where it's like it's all fun and simple on the outside, but there's sort of this deep streak that Jughead represents, where he's kind of looking at it as an outsider and being like, what the fuck is going on? It's like you're all possessed or something. But let me tell you a scary Archie story. So I was reading Dan DeCarlo interview, because again, I was when I get really into things, I get into them. And so I was reading a long interview with him, sort of a career. What an interesting guy. He had done, even did like semi-porn comics, like humor comics for a long time. And worked with Stan Lee for 10 years, which it boggles my mind. And going back, that Stan Lee, who's the most famous person, he wrote more Millie the Model stories than he wrote Fantastic Four stories. That's a crazy thought if you think. For 20 years, this guy wrote Millie the Model. He wrote, Binky. He wrote all these
every genre.
Every little
genre.
Western romance,
Yes,
but like
yes.
little, I mean, Hetty and what was the other one? Hetty and somebody else.
I don't know Hetty.
It was, he wrote all these, like sort of secondary Archie characters.
Steranko said the same thing. He's like, Stan's literally written like 10,000 comic stories from superheroes to Millie the model, and he was absolutely right, and everything in between. Yeah, you're right.
But this is the scary part. So Dan DeCarlo, and then he went over to Archie sometime in the
50s.
mid 50s, and stayed there for 40 years, and was their greatest sort of creator, and sort of set the style for the whole thing, and created Josie and the Pussycats and Sabrina and the Teenage Witch. And when the first Josie cartoon show came on, they didn't even tell him about it. They're like, "Oh yeah, we have a cartoon." But it's like, "Wait, I created that by myself, but I just gave it to you." And then in the 90s, when they made the movie, he found out they're making the movie. They didn't tell him. He found out, like, he saw previews, like, crap. So he hired a lawyer, not to sue them or anything, but just to find out what his options were. And the lawyer called over to Archie and they said, "Hey, we just want to talk about this." And they fucking fired Dan DeCarlo the next day after 40 years. He hired one lawyer to ask one question, and he was out the door. 40 years of service. That's the scariest Archie story ever.
Yeah, that is a sad fact about DeCarlo and Archie. You can't deny that. That's really not right. And ironically, either this morning or yesterday, I can't remember which, but working overnights and also being middle old man peeing, every couple hours in the overnight hours. I was up at like 5 this morning. Josie was on. The movie. The movie, sure. Yeah. So I want to say
my kids love Josie, man. They are into it. Melody is their star. They love Melody.
Well, yeah, sure. And I think Cheryl Ladd played Melody, the blonde.
Oh,
really? In the original cartoon. I don't know, and someone could look that up and keep me honest. But those were great cartoons. I loved Netflix Sabrina. I thought that was amazing.
Haven't seen it. Heard it was very good. Heard from Mitch it was very good.
Let's see here. What do we got? More questions here.
I came on to talk Rorschach, and I've only talked Archie. You see how good I am at marketing.
Heard that currently Chuck Dixon holds the record for most comic book pages written. Well, I've heard that from Chuck himself. Actually, Chuck did write a lot of comic book pages.
It's some guy. No, I found this out. It's some guy who wrote for Gold Key. His name escapes me. I was talking to
pardon me.
I don't know, some very knowledgeable comic book collector, and he was Gold Key's big writer, and he wrote for them for 50 years and produced. Gold Key had like those 90-page issues, and he would just write these endless stories, all kind of in that, like you're saying, the Kanigher style, where just he woke up and wrote 6 stories a day. That's my understanding.
Joe Gill at Charlton too. In fact, we were discussing in Mainframe when the news came out about the John Cena "Fuck It's Peacekeeper" series that he's going to do for HBO Max leading up to Suicide Squad. We're like, who created Peacekeeper? And I'm like, I don't know. And of course it was Joe Gill. Yeah, it was Joe Gill, right? Isn't that the guy?
Is Joe Gill the cop who draws?
Yeah, he was the cop, yes. Or was that Pete Morrissey? Pete Morrissey is the cop. But Joe Gill and Pete Morrissey were like kind of the backbone of Charlton.
All I can tell you, Charlton's put out some terrible fucking comics. If you go back and read some Charltons, that's like they're like, can we pay our artists? I bought a Charlton's page by accident the other day, and it was the worst lettered page I'd ever seen in my life. The letters go behind the characters' heads. You can just tell they did them as fast as possible to get them out the door and sell, and then it's wonderful. Perfect pulp doing it.
John attests that it was Cheryl Ladd. That was Melody. I thought so.
Hey, I'm turning on a fan. If you see my ass, I'm wearing shorts. So because it's getting hot in my little office. Probably from me ranting.
Yes, I can appreciate that. The Josie movie, you're right, Drew, was a great piece of satire. Guilty pleasure of one Brian Michael Bendis, the Josie movie, and I can appreciate that, actually. So I have that same Superman hat. What are some of your favorite Superman stories, asks Michael?
Oh, that's a great question. I mean, the top of the list to me is always Alan Moore's 3 one-shot. I don't know if he counts 3 issues. I guess he counts maybe even 4 issues. You could count him as. Yeah, so that would be the top list. So whatever happened to the Man of Tomorrow, that's 2 issues. And
the Swamp Thing story.
What do you say?
The Swamp Thing Superman story, is that one of them?
The Swamp Thing, yeah, the Swamp Thing. That'll probably be so. Yeah, so then I would do the Dave Gibbons. What do you get for the Man Who Has Everything?
Yeah, for the Man Who Has Everything. I love that story. I think honestly, I talk more about that story with Dave than I do about Watchmen, because everything about that story. And truly, both Moore and Gibbons gave so much, because the acting that Gibbons conveys in his art. I mean, God, that heart wrenching, and as a father, I'm sure you can appreciate it. Scene with Cal and his Kryptonian son, and he's like, I don't know if you're real, and it's just, oh man, and then the kid gets scared, and he's like, I don't like the way you're talking, Dad. I don't want, and it's just like, and he's like, oh please let me hold you one more time, and then that reality is ripped away from him, and you got Superman with nothing but hate. And it's like the most dangerous Superman. And when he just says burn, and just hits him with the heat vision. I love that story. God damn it. And it was so well adapted for the Justice League cartoon as well.
By James DeMatteis. Yeah. Yes. I mean, the brilliance of those 4 stories, I read them once every 6 months. They make me jealous. It's like whenever I pick up a pen to write a comic book, I was like, I have the same amount of pages, and I'm working with artists like Clay and Mitch and Jorge. I have just as good artists as Alan did, and I tried, and I never hit it. And it's like a constant sort of infinity I never get to the high of those 4 issues. Other stories I like, because I think those are. I mean, I grew up on John Byrne. I know probably Kurt Swan was in my memory. It's, in terms of like records and everything. But John Byrne was for my first Superman, so I do really like the first Man of Steel. Mini. I love my favorite moment in that is when he meets Batman, and Batman says, "If you look through my costume, a random person will die." He's like, "I've set a tick in my costume, and if you use your X-ray vision to find out who I am, it will set off in a random person line." Superman's like, "Okay, I won't use my X-ray vision." And then at the very end of the issue, Batman reveals he's like, and Superman's like, "I can tell if you're lying or not by your heartbeat," because he's Superman. And so at the end of the issue, Batman's like, "I knew you could tell I was lying or not, so I had to tell the truth. And if you had used your X-ray vision, it would have killed a random person. It would have killed me."
Oh, nice.
So he's like, I would have been the one who died. He didn't put an instant life and say he put it. And that Byrne would do that sometimes, man. He had some great twists. And I love the Byrne Lex Luthor issue that everyone loves. That's one of my favorites of all time. I'm a sucker for the Silver Age stuff, like everybody of my sort of generation when I go back. Especially the Otto Binder stuff is really good. Like the first appearance of Supergirl is really fun. And in modern day, I mean, I think I love Salem Loeb's Man for All Seasons. Has one of my favorite Superman moments when he says, like, and I tried to use this, and I can't remember what issue, but I put in it where like Loeb said, like, I'm like, every day he decides not to. He could have been a bad guy. He could have ruled the earth, and instead he does this. Like, that option was available to him, and I remember that sticking to me forever. So those are a few of my favorites. I could go on and on. Yeah.
I liked it. That was excellent. Here's a good question from Bradley. Are there any books that fans should revisit before reading Batcat?
No, you don't have to read a thing. You should be reading DC Comics. You should be reading James's run because it's brilliant and it gives you that nice Joker high, and I highly endorse it. But no, it's totally it's a continuation of my series, but what do you have to know from my series? You have to know that Bat and Cat love each other. There, I spoiled it for you. They love each other. There's one thing you might want to do is you might want to go and watch the Phantasm movie, because this is the first appearance of Phantasm in the DCU. She's existed for 30 years in our minds and our memories, but she's never sort of come into the DCU. She's been in a few like Beyond kind of comics, but not DCU proper. In terms of this comic, the Phantasm movie is continuity. That happened. What happened to him, except for a little stuff where they talk about Joker's origin, because I don't believe any Joker origin story is true. So except for the Joker origin stuff, the rest of the Phantasm movie is continuity and sort of the relationship that Andrea and Bruce had, and what happened to Phantasm at the end of that movie, and what happened to Joker at the end of the movie. That is all continuity. So if you wanted to do some research, go on the DC Universe app, or maybe move over to HBO Max now and watch that. That's a much more fun way to do research too, and I'm sure it's cheaper. So yeah,
it's such a great movie too.
And it's so seen it. Right. Yeah, Marty Pascal, your man.
Absolutely, I saw it in the theater when it came out. Me and the afternoon DJ from the rock station I worked at, WXRT. his shift was done at 6. I'm like, you want to go see Mask of the Phantasm? He's like, that's a great idea. We'll have dinner afterwards. And we were blown away at how cinematic this cartoon was, down to the closing credits and having Saida Garrett sing the closing credits. And she was popular then because she had just done a duet with Michael Jackson a few years earlier. And we're just like, man, they spent money on this movie. This is actually pretty good. So it was amazing. John asks, where does Batcat fit into continuity with James's Batman and Joker War and the like?
I think the best way to think about Batcat is when I was 11 or 12 years old, I was a Batman reader, and The Killing Joke came out. And we had no idea, because we're like, is this continuity? Is this not? Is Joker dead? Is he not? Is Batwoman shot in the back? Is she not? This doesn't seem to fit into sort of the everyday of what I'm reading into the Batman. And I was confused by that. But looking back, to me, it works seamlessly, where sort of the comic book tells the day-to-day of Batman's life, and sort of these big moments that sort of impact him forever are told in these sort of single one-shots. So think of it that way. It's in continuity in the same way that The Killing Joke was in continuity.
Excellent, man. I like it. Here's a warning from Y, the Last Nerd. If Phantasm is anyone other than Andrea Bromont under the mask, prepare for backlash or backlash.
It's Andrea Bromont. There shall be no backlash. That is set in the stone. It's been drawn and lettered. It is
excellent.
Her. She has, and oh my God, nobody has drawn Phantasm or Andrea more gorgeous than Clay Mann has. It's perfection.
Exciting, very exciting.
Yeah. This was Clay's idea. Clay came to me and said Phantasm was something he'd always wanted to do, and push for it.
Drew will agree to disagree. I don't think they have turned their back on John and Damian, but I agree with you that Tomasi did a great Superman, as did our buddy Dan Jurgens. Love Super Sons as well. So
dude, I love everything Tomasi does. To me, Tomasi makes the comics I want to read. That guy is he just writes. I don't know. He's like the dream of comics. It's like that. It's like that perfect story. When I want to escape and just read, like, I want to read a Batman issue, I open up an issue of Detective. It's pure and great. And I also think Tomasi did the best Nightwing run of all time.
That's exactly what I was going to say. The same thing. And I have a lot of friends that are diehard Nightwing fans, and they all say the same thing, that it was a damn shame that Tomasi didn't get more credit for writing such a great Nightwing run. And, sometimes with Nightwing, and as you know, although, no, I take that back, Grayson was the exception, where it was able to kind of do its own thing. But a lot of times Nightwing, it's that 5th week. It's time for that 5th week event for the Bat Universe. Let's all band together and drop your storyline and, support Bruce Wayne murderer or whatever the story was.
Lord knows we had to deal with that on Grayson. Every 4th issue
Did you?
We got yeah, that was
okay.
That was my first experience of being a support book, where you had to sort of and that's why when I was in Batman, and I think maybe this is to the detriment of my run, my sort of motto was no one has to do anything. Like, 'cause I had been in that position in Grayson where we would do these plans. Are you falling asleep? Are you Claymoring me?
I'm not. Don't worry. Exactly. You are hilarious. That's fantastic. That's a good callback. That's right.
See, I listen. I pay attention.
Yeah, we did talk about that. No, I promise you, I'm not falling asleep. But I'm allowed to yawn. Come on, man.
You're allowed. It's like it's 12:04 at night. Or at least
but the brain turned around. Yeah, well, and also, like, do you have to help the kids tomorrow?
I have to help the kids every day of my life.
All right. Well, I'm saying, like, with school and stuff, do you have to get up early?
Yes, but I can get up early. I can. Dude, when I was in CIA, we did a month. We did 2 months where I was only allowed to sleep 3 hours. I can do anything.
Oof. All right. Well, we can start talking Strange Adventures and
Rorschach. No, I can go. I'm looking forward to this. I just want to talk about anything. We can talk about anything, questions, anything. We can go as long as we want to go. I'm so hyped up from that debate, I couldn't go to sleep. You can tell I'm talking like 3 minutes.
No, you're good. Tom King, one thing I enjoyed in your run was the way you gave some amazing dialogue between Grayson and Damian in the Rules of Engagement trade paperback. Very nice.
Oh, thank you. I think their relationship, obviously, what Grant and sort of quietly established of them as sort of not just brothers, but sort of a father figure, was very important. I think that's one of my key things. I got to write them a little bit in Grayson and sort of got a taste of that when I had them I had their first reunion, because Grayson, he's presumed dead, and so it's the first time sort of Damian sees him alive, and I got to have that hug, and ever since I sort of wrote that, I have sort of an affection of these two. I just like them because like Dick treats Damian seriously. Like I think a lot of people treat Damian as a joke, you know, because they're like, oh, he's just another kid yapping away. But Dick's the guy who's like, he sees Damian's yaps as almost like a language, and he interprets it and realizes that Damian talks about his very deep and dark feelings in this sort of blustery way. And because Dick sees through that, it really hits Damian in the heart. And because of that, Damian respects him too. So I like that.
No, I think so. And I think he gives special leeway to Damian too, because like, hey, I did this job. I know how tough it is. And I know how it could mess with you. So I think, you know, Dick does have also, as Jeff Johnson said before on this show, Dick Grayson understands everybody in the DC universe. He is the key to the DC universe as far as all the heroes go. I think he is an inspiration to those younger than him and to the elder superhero crowd. They're very proud of how great he is as an adult, and I think they respect him as well.
Yeah, I mean, our saying on Grayson was we always wanted Dick Grayson to be the fourth pillar of the DC universe. To be, I mean, he's been around as long as Wonder Woman has. He's done the 80 years. And sort of make him. I don't think we quite got there, but I think there's still, if anyone could hold up that fourth pillar, it'd be Dick.
Well, and I think in the right hands, he assumes that burden or mantle, and again, some of the best conversations are between Clark Kent and Dick Grayson, because you know, again, they've been teammates for a long time, and Clark respects him.
Well, I mean, he's named Nightwing not after Batman. What a fucking way to throw Batman under the bus. Be like, he named himself after a Superman hero. After sort of these Superman used to dress up as Nightwing and go into the city of Kandor. So what a kick in the ass to Bat. So that's why he's named Nightwing. So I mean, that's how close they are. That's where his name comes from.
Absolutely, man. No, I love that stuff. All right, Drew, what else?
Marv Wolfman is cold. He's cold to have done
that. The Graceman run that Tom did was much more enjoyable than I expected. A Nightwing book without Nightwing could be. Was there any trepidation in tackling that challenge?
No, I mean, that was my first gig in comics. It was literally like I had two Vertigo pitches that were rejected. Both of which are becoming TV shows, so that shows what people know. Remember, when people reject your pitches, there's more life. So yeah, so two currently in production TV shows that were rejected by Vertigo. But because the editor very nicely saw that I was making effort, it was Mark Doyle, who recently left DC, sadly. He gave me a chance on Grayson as long as I was willing to team up with Tim Seeley, and I was lucky to get another brother in Tim who mentored me and took me through the process in the kindest way anyone could. And so I was not intimidated. I was just excited. I had been I had a job between this and college. So I had been waiting for whatever it was, 34 years to write comics, man. Oh, I was rearing to go. That's all I wanted to do. And then my first issue came out, which was Nightwing 30. I think 30, yeah, the last issue of the New 52 Nightwing, and people fucking hated it. Boy, was that a slap in the face. That I remember waking up in the middle of the night and just being like, maybe I can't do this. But I've been waiting for 34 years to show I could do this, and I did it once, and people hated it. Maybe I don't know what I'm doing. But I kept going, and people, everyone who read Grayson says the same thing. I thought I'd hate this, but it was all right.
I didn't know what to expect either, and no, it was a great book. It was fantastic. You guys did all right.
Well, and a lot of that credit goes to Mikhail Hamid, who drew that book and did a lot of Batman with me. That book wouldn't work if Mikhail didn't draw sort of the perfect super spy.
That's awesome. That's fantastic to hear. Well, let's talk a minute about Strange Adventures if we can.
Oh, sure.
Because
I've heard of it.
Almost halfway through, 5 issues.
Thank you so much. I got a call from my editor saying the sales are very nice. We went back to print on the first 4 issues.
Wow.
And twice on the first one. So thank you very much. I cannot appreciate the audience for this character that is very, very unknown. I mean, I thought Mr. Miracle was unknown. Adam Strange is another rung down the ladder. So the support for this guy is amazing. And of course, Mr. Terrific's even maybe another ring because he's only had his own series for like 5 issues or 9 issues.
Yeah, I was surprised that I was disappointed that they didn't stick with it longer, because I do think he's a great character. I've loved him in JSA. I liked his role with Greg Rucka in Checkmate.
That Checkmate series is brilliant. Oh god,
yeah, great character. No, and then again, what you're doing with him right now in Strange Adventures, I think a very political book in both.
Political? Who would have guessed? I try to stay away from controversy. I swear to God, all I do is sit in my house and take care of my kids, and yet somehow I write such angry books these days.
So, is it Alana or Alna? How do we? It's Alana.
I say Alana. Yeah, Alana.
Yeah, so do I. Man, Alana. There's a lot going on in that head, and there's a lot of manipulation happening, and I love it.
Oh, she's tough, man.
She is.
Yeah, I mean, the good thing about Alana, if you go back and read the original Gardner Fox, Carmine Infantino, they're pretty shitty comics. I mean, they're beautifully drawn. Carmine could draw a good comic.
You're not wrong.
With Murphy Anderson on inks.
They're just very simple. They're just comics for 10-year-olds.
They're comics for 10-year-olds by a writer who was writing 13 other things at the same time because he was only getting $2 a word. And they're all the same thing. There's like a thing that happens, and then they use a very pseudo. They're Julie Schwartz comics. When he was at his sort of Julie Schwartz, like the one plot, he loved it. There would be a problem, and eventually the heroes would be like, I can't solve this problem, and then they would think of some science solution and realize that mercury turns to is liquid at room temperature, therefore we can beat the enemy. Like that's always so. That was every single Adam. But of course the science was bullshit. It's completely crazy. It's like mercury, so therefore the rock men will turn to stone. It's like rock men will turn to stone. That's good writing right there. So they're not great comics, I won't lie to you. But the one really good thing about them is that Alana is pretty equal to Adam Strange for comics that are written in the 1960s, early 1960s. This is 61, 62, 63. And she has a jetpack, she has a gun, and she is the princess of the land in sort of that old Buck Rogers kind of way. But she's kicking ass out there, and she's in the field, and she's coming up. Adam always comes with the science solution, but she always has to execute his stupid idea. So so that was the big redeeming quality, is that this is for a comic in the 60s. Alana was a fairly progressive character, and so I clung to that, and then you know me, I'm obsessed with film noir, and that's sort of thanks to you and to Michael Cronenberg. My other brothers, you guys got me into it. You dragged me into this thing, and I've got just utterly obsessed with it. I took 2 years of my life to watch every film noir I possibly could. And when you watch a lot of film noirs, you see a lot of femme fatales, and you start to fall in love with these women, these Yvonne de Carlos, and so
Gene Tierney is who I see.
Gene Tierney and Laura. Oh my God.
And I kind of see Alana as a Gene Tierney kind of character. If Alana were blonde, she'd be Elizabeth Scott, but she's not blonde, so she's a brunette. And I think Gene Tierney was that kind of brunette that maybe young Ava Gardner too. Maybe
Elizabeth Scott really very interesting life. She's a closet lesbian who had to sort of operate in the noir period, but was respected for that. They let her
incredible interviews at the end of her life about her whole career, her relationship with Hal Wallace.
Yeah,
despite being a lesbian, so maybe she was bisexual. I don't know. Or
she put in some great. She had that voice that could just melt you. She had that Elizabeth. Yeah. Oh, so we're already at old movies, John. Look at us. I'm trying to promote. We're talking old movies.
Come on, man. It's a scene missing. It's a hidden scene missing within a regular word balloon.
Yes. So I gave her. Oh, my contact's attacking my eyeball. All right, so you can see. It happens every once in a while. And I have to wear contacts. I switched to glasses for the longest time, but these with masks, they fog up your glasses. It's the worst thing. So I switched back to contacts.
Oh, I'm the same way, man. Yeah, it's tough.
So I modeled Alana on those film noir. I even gave her a pack-a-day habit, probably 3 packs a day habit, and she's very manipulative. She's very much in control, and she's very out for her own agenda, which is to make sure that her planet and her husband are in power and in control. And she's sort of the third co-lead of this story with Mr. Terrific. And
100%. Absolutely, my God, no. Alana's story is very important to this. I also like the nod. We mentioned Kanigher earlier to Senator Kanigher during
Oh yeah,
one of the hearings. I thought that was really cool.
it's funny.
And-
Well, I've grown. Kanigher is known to be an asshole. Like that's just like not as bad as like Mort Weisinger, as like Mort Weisinger tortured people. Kanigher is just known as sort of a grumpy guy.
Very arrogant, apparently.
Very arrogant. You know, he wrote stuff like if I was doing comics, I would have already written 3 of the great American novels. Like, you know, he was that kind of guy. But in going back and reading his stuff, unlike Gardner Fox, who I just threw under the bus, I feel bad. He ingrained Cradle people. Kanigher's stories, a lot of them are actually pretty good. Like he had some. Now he was not. This is the guy. He tried to be progressive for an older dude, so he made a lot of mistakes. But at the end of his career, he did a lot of things of sort of like in his war books of bringing black soldiers up and talking about sort of their plight, like things like Gravedigger. And he got for the 60s and 70s, he was trying to push progressive stuff, which I admire. And his stories are just good, man. His Alex Toth stories in the war books are pretty good. And his Sergeant Rock stories can break your heart. So I mean, if you have a general, if people don't know, Bob Canada was the editor and writer of DC's military comics. And that to us seems like, oh, well, that was just a side issue. But Sergeant Rock went 300 issues and he wrote them all. So, or like a great majority of them.
Good majority, yeah.
And edited them too,
yes.
Until Joe Kubert took over at the end. So he that was a huge chunk of DC's stuff, and there were like at one point there 4 or 5. Now he did crazy stuff, and I mean he wrote the shittiest Wonder Woman you've ever read in your life.
The one thing he can't be redeemed for, unfortunately, was some really, really bad Wonder Woman stuff.
Oh, terrible! Like throw me under the bus, terrible Wonder Woman.
Like turning her almost into Mort Weisinger, Lois Lane. If only I could marry Steve Trevor. Oh God, my life would be perfect.
He was the worst romance. And I read a lot of comics books, John. He also took over Lois Lane at the end, and he gets really sexist at that point. So, yes, he had some problems. I agree. And he was very mean. I talked to Neil Adams about him. Neil Adams told me like he's. I mean, there's lots of stories about, but he was so famous to be bullying people. Neil Adams, he started yelling. Neil yelled back, and he immediately cowered in the corner. So Neil has a great Kanigher story. But if you're thinking military, and so I had a military general, and I was like, well, I got to make him Kanigher because he's the military guy in DC. So
I'm with you, man.
Yeah, the Wonder Woman stories are trash. Just so
what are you gonna do
with Ross Andrew and Esposito on that? Brilliant, nice art, but terrible story.
Tay Hillam, 29. Does Tom King like Wild West movies?
What counts as a Wild West movie? Does that mean like literally the show Wild West? I love westerns. I mean, I'm a huge John Ford, Howard Hawks, like old western vibe. Yeah, I mean, I love. Scott's westerns. Yeah, I mean, I rip off westerns constantly. I don't know if you know. I did a whole thing.
I didn't know that.
Oh, well, I did in my third arc of Batman. I did with David Finch, which has the famous page I'm probably most famous for, which is like he gets off the ground and says, I'm still here. That's all Rio Bravo. I stole the plot for that just directly from Rio Bravo. Yeah, it's about. If people haven't known, Rio Bravo is about John Wayne gets a prisoner and sort of locks him in a prison. He has to guard the prison until someone carries him away. And in that David Finch thing, they have Psycho Pirate, and he's locked away, and Bane's coming to get him. So it's the exact same plot as Real. So I ripped him off all the time.
George Rodriguez wants to know what your favorite John Ford film is. I have an odd favorite John Ford film, and it's not a Western, but go ahead. It's one we've discussed before.
Is it the Quiet American or the?
No, it's The Last Hurrah, where Spencer Tracy plays the Bostonian mayor having to deal with, because then again, as Irish machine politics up against all the fat cat blue bloods that hate the Irish guys. And it's his last campaign going to be mayor of Boston against this young telekinetic kind of candidate. And it's fantastic. It's
telekinetic. I don't think that's the right.
You know what I'm saying? Like he's
telegenic.
Telegenic, thank you. That's the word I was looking for.
We're such nerds that telekinetic would pop into our brain before.
Why not? But it's God. Everybody: James Gleason, Pat O'Brien, Edward Brophy, all these great character actors are part of Spencer Tracy's crew of aldermen and machine politics fixers and stuff. And it's my favorite John Ford movie. So what's your favorite John Ford movie?
I mean, there are moments in The Searchers that are as transcendent as anything that's ever been in film, especially the first shot and the last shot and some of the montages. I mean, The Searchers is a deeply flawed movie for many reasons, but they're just moments. But if I had to say my overall, it depends on how you read the ending, but I'll tell you my reading of it. Fort Apache, which is part of the Apache trilogy.
Oh, yeah.
It's the first one that was made. They're out of order because the second one comes after the third. The Fort Apache.
Forgive me. I'm looking to make sure that I don't have like an eye infection or something. Like, what the hell's with my eyes? I think everything's fine.
You and me. Someone's attacking your eyes.
It's the lighting. I'm sure it's the lighting.
Trump first he cut off our internet, then he released the tear gas, so none of us could read people talking about how shitty he was in that debate. That's what happened.
Go on about John Ford.
So Fort Apache is a great movie. It's about Henry Fonda plays the bad guy in it to John Wayne's good guy. And but it's a weird bag. It's basically a replay of the Battle of Little Bighorn, from the, where what the fuck is his name? Custer, yeah, messed it up because he was so arrogant. So Henry Fonda plays the arrogant, and John Wayne plays the guy being like, "No, you're doing this wrong. You know, these American Indians you're fighting against, they're not bad guys, and not only they're not bad guys, but they're gonna kick our ass. We can't do this." And he's this sort of martinet, and he's like, "We got to do it. We're doing it," and he gets slaughtered at the end. And John Wayne's the only survivor, and the whole troop gets killed. And then in the ending, there's two ways you can sort of read the ending, because in the ending, like, there's this whole speech about how, oh, he died, but he was actually, because they make him into this noble hero. And I read that cynically. If you read it genuinely and be like, John Ford still loves this guy, even though he was an asshole, I can understand why he wouldn't like him. But I read it cynically, where Ford is sort of saying, your heroes are not heroes. This is a real story about what happened behind your heroes. And I think in that way, it undermines a lot of things, where he's saying there's arrogance and there's truth behind this. And if you knew the real story behind your myths, there's a deeper story there. I think Fort Apache has some layers in it if you read the ending the way I read it.
Well, before I get to this DC Western question, Gore Vidal, Bad Day at Black Rock with Spencer Tracy is great. I believe that's a John Sturges movie. I don't think that's a John Ford movie. That's not a John Ford movie. It is very, very good. It's an amazing movie. I enjoy that movie a lot. That's a movie I would love to recreate in a comic book, because it's such a simple plot of a guy arriving and everything sort of being just a little bit off until it descends into madness. Talk about an earlier. I think that is more of a horror film than as a Western or as anything else. Well, or a Western locale crime film. Yeah, or a Western, a Western noir, basically. Yeah. Greg, I agree. Man Who Shot Liberty Valance is probably my second favorite John Ford movie. I love that movie, and I never tire of watching it. It's so beautiful. It really is so beautiful. Also love it. My complaint with it, and it's hard when you see it, Jimmy Stewart is 45, 46 in that movie, and he's supposed to be playing an 18-year-old, and it's you think that young, really? Well, he's just out of medical school in 18, whatever. Yeah, no, I agree. No, and especially in the flashbacks. So the flashbacks. Yeah, in the forward. So I feel like James Stewart, who's my favorite actor of all time, so I don't want to say anything bad about him. He was just, and he's wonderful in that movie, but he's just a little too old for that part. That's fair. No, I can appreciate that. Let's see. Tom, can you read the chat? Are you able to on the right? No, I can't. No, are you sure? Comments? Oh, comments? Yes. Yeah, you see comments. What are people saying? I never read the comments. I'm not even on Twitter. No. Everything's fine, and they're all positive. I just want you to hang on to the conversation while I go pee for a second. Oh, okay. Yeah, I can cover it for you. All right, so I have to read the comments and respond. Oh, man, I'm in charge of Word Balloon. Yes. I've always dreamed of this day. Oh, this is going to be great. All right, this is Tom King taking over for John at Word Balloon. Have I told you guys my feelings on the new Star Trek yet? That is a very inside joke. All right, I will read these questions. I'm reading them top to bottom, which is, I'm sure, the wrong order to read them in, but I'll do the wrong. But I don't mind doing it the wrong way. Is there any book that I read the one. Watching the stream on big TV while sipping some Canadian whiskey. Goddamn right. In an amazing night. Too bad it won't last, because I have to write my own book in 30 minutes, meeting up with my artist. It is very hard to write a book, and I sympathize with you, especially late at night. I just started a new #1 this week and had a very frustrating experience today that I think a lot of people relate to, where I had written the pitch for the book
which this book will come out a year from now. And I started to write the issue 1, and about like 3 or 4 pages in, I decided I didn't love what I put in my pitch. So I decided to change things in a new and illuminating way, which I thought was so brilliant of myself, and I thought I was being very intelligent. And I was writing and writing. About halfway through, I realized I was a little so far from my pitch. I should check in with my editors to make sure I wasn't off. I wasn't going crazy. And so I called my editors. And I said, hey, I changed the pitch a little bit. I changed it from this thing to that thing. And I'm rambling here on those things.
You can continue. It's all right.
I'm talking about this my frustrating day of writing. And I called my editors to see if I had strayed too far and gone crazy. And my editors were like, yes, Tom, you have gone too far from your pitch. You agreed to write one thing, and now you're writing something completely else. I was like, wait, but I just want to write Archie. And they're like, no, you work for DC Comics. You can't write Archie. I was like, oh, no, but I get this great twist with Jughead. And like he eats a hamburger. And they're like, no. You got to write what we told you. And they were right. I had gotten in my own head. I think maybe I was scared of a #1 issue a little bit. But it was one of those things where I had something in my head and I had to watch it disappear. And I just sort of like, I walked around the room and all my kids were doing all their stupid kid things and talking to me about Pokemon and BS. And I was like, I don't want to talk to you. I want to tell someone how awful this is. And so I complained to my wife. And you complain because you lost the world. In my head, I had a whole world. I had look, on the top of my head, it's more Superman. I had characters, I had moments, I had this planned out, and they all just died. I saw them all fall in the field like the fall of the New Mutants, and they were all laid out. And I just told my wife about that, and we mourned them together. And then I went back, and because I'm a professional writer, I wrote more pages and adjusted it, and now it'll be better.
Attaboy.
So I'm just saying this normal writing frustration.
I feel like an airline pilot that had to go to the bathroom. Here, you take the wheel for a second. You're like, hey, wait a minute. I don't know what I'm doing. Hold on.
Dude, I handled this, man. I podcasted like a motherfucker. I was out here killing it.
I cannot wait to go back and listen to this. It's happened once or twice before. I've handed the controls over.
That was my Mark Waid moment where I was going to be like, let me take you on a tour of my office.
Oh, that's right. I know. I had to buy a new computer. That's true. A month ago, my internet crapped out in the middle of my interview with Mark Waid. Oh, all right. Well, I'm sure John will be back. And
you do Mark impression.
I love imitating Mark. That's truly one of my joys is him and Didio, him and doing Dan. Like those have been like the easiest comic book imitators, imitations I could do. So,
I miss Dan. I miss just having him call me randomly and be like,
"It's always fun."
I have a good idea.
Mario,
what if Lobo is pregnant? Just consider it for a second, and he has a baby, and it's Joker. We'll sell 1 million. Talk to you later.
This is true. Oh, that's hilarious. So Mario wants to know in Rorschach, does he kill Archie for Betty's love?
Yeah, Rorschach's like, it's me, Reggie. that's the.
That would be fantastic. The cross.
You drove me insane.
You thought Archie meeting the Punisher was as far as comics could go. Oh no, Reggie Mantle is Rorschach. That would be fantastic. Kovacs. I love it. That's great, man. By the way,
I can't do that because that motherfucker Ed Brubaker already did it. He
true.
Already wrote like the Watchmen of Archie. I can't have
Criminal.
a fantastic idea. Yeah, in Criminal.
Yes, he did.
Brubaker did a whole arc where he did what I always do, which is you take the absurd seriously and you make it sad. He did that, so I can't do it. So I just have to read Archie for the fun of Archie.
I completely agree. No, that's a great thing. I was going to say Archie versus the Punisher, much maligned, likely by people who never read it because it's a very funny comic book.
It's very good. Somebody famous did that.
G.K. Chesterton, I want to say, was the writer.
G.K. Chesterton.
Yeah, he was a 90s, wasn't it? Oh, no, that's right. That's Father Brown. I forget the gentleman's name. Shame on me. You're right. I believe that is the author of Father Brown, yes. The great British crime-solving priest. Who, by the way, they actually, the television adaptation that they've been showing in the last few years, pretty good. Pretty good. So, and Alec Guinness, Obi-Wan himself has been Father Brown in films. So, much neglected character if you've never seen a Father Brown film. So
come on here for the Father Brown trivia. That's why
I'm telling you. I truly love seeing how passionate Tom is about comic books. As a college student in D.C., it inspires me a lot. Oh, that's nice to hear, Deanie.
Oh, that's awesome. I don't know where you're going to college, but if you went to George Washington, it's where my wife went, so we have a bond.
Michael wants to know if you're much of a horror fan. We were just talking about that with Cecil Castellucci, and that not so much because of Nightmare on Elm Street 3.
No, I suck. I'm a terrible horror fan.
So
no,
am I, man.
I call Seeley. Seeley tells me what's going on with the horror. I'm no good at the horror. I have no expertise in it. I mean, I've seen some of the basic movies. I've seen the Frankensteins. I've seen like the things they say are horror, which I don't like. Rosemary's Baby and like those things seem to me just to be thriller movies. But I like.
Okay.
No, I haven't done the whole. When I was a kid, it was comics and wrestling and horror movies were all kind of mixed together.
Oh, yeah.
Sort of a nobody will talk to me at school soup. I don't know, but if you liked comics, you kind of got pushed together with the dudes who liked wrestling, and you kind of got pushed together with the dudes who liked horror. So I was with those dudes growing up, and they were my dudes, and I loved them, and they would tell me all like the best deaths that Jason did, but I was always too scared to look because I'm a little wimp.
Fair enough. I don't think this is correct. George says that I was thinking of D.G. Chichester from Daredevil. I don't think that's quite the name, but it's close.
D.G. Chichester wrote a great run.
It was
weeks.
It was Chesterton or Chest. Yeah, it was Chesterton.
No,
actually, I guess he's questioning me saying Chesterton.
No, but who was the artist? The artist was somebody that you interviewed.
I'm going to look up Archie versus the Punisher while we're talking.
You're useless.
So
maybe
it was great because Archie looked like he did pre-Ban DiCarlo. It was really more. Oh God, who was that original Archie artist?
Bob Montana created Archie.
Bob Montana is exactly what I was thinking of. Yes. He looked like 40s. 40s Archie. I'm typing in Archie meets the Punisher.
I love Archie. Should I tell more Archie stories while you're doing this?
Sure. That's interesting. I didn't realize Bat and Lash.
Bat and Lash, that's who I was thinking of. I knew somebody famous.
Who the hell am I thinking of? But yeah, the great Bat and Lash. We miss him.
See, that was in my
Stan
head.
Goldberg, John.
Who's married to the great Jackie? Who was married to the great Jackie Estrada?
Indeed, and their fantastic comic book, Supernatural Law. Very funny. Stan Goldberg, John Buscema, and Tom Palmer did the art for Archie versus the Punisher.
John Buscema and Tom Palmer.
Yeah,
that's my original got into comics people because Avengers 300, as I said many times, was my first comic, and it was John Buscema and Tom Palmer.
Totally forgot that it was Bat and Lash, so that's amazing. Bat and Lash,
in my heart.
Who could easily have cosplayed Gary Shandling if he so wanted. He did. He looked exactly like Gary Shandling to me.
Jackie Estrada has always been so kind to me. If people don't know, she runs sort of the Eisners, and she's sort of almost like the oral history of Comic-Con. She's been there since the beginning. If you look, I have her. She has wonderful books that she kickstarted with like all the pictures of Comic-Con, and she's been nothing but kind. She's cool.
I like it. Greg McKeon, in your conversation with Damon Lindelof and Fornes about Rorschach, to make a Rorschach Rolling Stones instead of the Monkees, Rorschach is a student of, I don't know what, Hannah
Arendt. She's a philosopher.
Can you talk a little bit about her?
Sure. So I'm doing something. This is supposed to be subtle, but I'm giving it away because I like the word balloon listeners. I famously, for people, a lot of people probably know this, but just a little bit of background. Rorschach is both a parody and a tribute to Steve Ditko, and to Steve Ditko's philosophy, which was based on a woman named Ayn Rand or Anne Rand, depending on how you pronounce it, who is to this day one of the most influential philosophers on sort of the right hand of the scale. She wrote the Atlas Shrugged and the Fountainhead, which are the books the worst people in college read and yelled at you about. Lord knows, I remember my first week at Columbia, and I was this little boy from LA, and there were all these like fancy sort of East Coast fuckers, and I went to some, fucking thing with a bunch of frat boys, and they were yelling, "You haven't read The Fountainhead? You must change your mind. It'll show how you live, and you'll lead." And then I read it, and I tore that book in half because it's just all. But anyways,
good movie though.
The movie's all right, but her basic philosophy was that sort of some people are better than others, and we must reward the people who are better, and that by taking from those people and giving them to lesser people, we're robbing them of their freedom. That was sort of her basic philosophy. And so her famous phrase was A equals A, where it's like, just strip out all this bullshit you create with morals and all that stuff. Look at reality as it is, and as it is, some people are better than others. It's one of those and people think it is revelation. Ditko was a acolyte. He dedicated most of his life to her work. He read Mr. A after the A equals A, and was a deep believer that in her philosophy, there are good people and there are bad people, and there is nowhere in between. And you be a good person. As a good person, it's your job to take care of the things. Life is black and white, exactly like someone has commented.
As Wayne just said, yes, indeed.
Yes, and that's what Rorschach was a parody of that, and Alan Moore's famously said it's a parody that blew up in his face, where people took it a little more seriously than he thought it would be. But the idea is so I have a character in my book who's based a little bit on Steve Ditko, not entirely, but is a Steve Ditko-esque character. In the fact that he's a comic book artist, he drew pirate comics, not superhero comics, obviously. His name is Will Myerson, which is a very comic booky kind of name. And but he became obsessed with a different German. Ayn Rand was a Jewish German immigrant to the U.S. He became obsessed with a different female Jewish German immigrant who also came to the U.S. named Hannah Arendt. Hannah Arendt is basically the equivalent of Ayn Rand, but on the left, where her philosophy was always all about how we participate in society, and her most famous books were about the Eichmann trials and sort of how Nazism rose up, and why it rose up, and how totalitarianism sort of took over, because she was literally a witness in it. She ended up in a concentration camp on the outskirts of Vichy, France, and had relatives die in the camps. And she was in Germany, and she spoke to these, and she was not only a follower of Heidegger, who was sort of in his own, who joined the Nazi Party and did some of the philosophical work behind Nazism, in my opinion. But she was Heidegger's lifetime lover, and was in love with him before and after what he had done could come out. So she was very close to the Nazi movement and sort of saw it up front, and wrote about sort of her experiences. So my twist on the Ditko is for him to be obsessed with, instead of being obsessed with Ayn Rand, which is this idea, is this character, this Will Myerson character, is obsessed with sort of the left wing Ayn Rand. It's kind
cool,
of. Man. See, I paid attention in school every once in a while. I didn't always just read comics.
I never heard of her. That's intriguing.
Oh, you've heard of the Eichmann trials, the famous book, right?
Well, of course, absolutely.
Yeah, so she wrote that. She wrote the famous stuff.
Oh, she covered them, or
she wrote
The Man in the Glass Booth.
Yeah, she wrote. She's anyway. She's all about the rise of totalitarian man. I'm sorry, it's very late. My brain is going fuzzy.
No. Eichmann was one of the chief Nazi strategist that was caught.
Our book's called Eichmann in Jerusalem. I just Googled it because I'm not that smart. So what happened? So Eichmann was a chief cog in the machine. If you've seen the famous Nazi HBO movie, he's in that. But he got away. He fled to South America and hid for 20 years and got caught by Israelis in 1960 and was put on trial. And Hannah Arendt watched that trial and came up with this phrase called the banality of evil. That's what she's most famous for that phrase. And the idea that you could sort of be a cog in an evil machine and not realize it. Eichmann his claim was that, like, I killed Jews very efficiently because if I had done it inefficiently, it would have been worse.
Right.
I moved papers from here to there. What did you want me to do? If someone took my job, they would have done much worse than I did. So I just and her idea with Eichmann, we went from Archie to Eichmann.
Yeah, we did.
Her idea with Eichmann was that he said to be human, in her opinion, was to have a conversation with yourself, to have another voice in your head where you're like, am I making the wrong decision here? And another voice. So it's sort of, there's a conversation. And her opinion with Eichmann was that he was not having this conversation, that other voice didn't exist in his head. And so in some ways he was lacking human. That was why he was banal and not like the rest of us. It's the banality of evil, because you're not having that conversation. You're just doing your job.
These are interesting questions, given that Rorschach hasn't come out yet. Can you talk about shifting your writing style from the 9-panel grid to the New Frontier-esque 3-panel structure?
Yeah, sure. On some level, I felt like I had ridden that 9-panel grid right into the ground, and I just had to start something different. when I started this new generation of books, Strange Adventures, Batcat, and Rorschach, my first calling card was to sort of throw away all the tricks I had been using before and to sort of try to grow as an artist. Not to grow away from who I was, to still have my voice of sad superheroes looking out windows, because I fucking love that. But to use different techniques. Again, to use a Beatles metaphor, man, to just to evolve but still be myself, to change, because that's why, we love the Archies, but the third Archie song you don't want to listen to, but the third Beatles song you do. So this comes up because I put the Archies, my kids are obsessed with Archies, I put the Archies on the iPod, and by the third song I wanted to shoot myself.
What's the third song? Because Sugar Sugar, yeah, Jingle Jangle, yeah.
Yeah, and then you're just like, whoa, this has gone bad. So I was like, okay, so no more 9-panel grids. I'm going to try my best to get rid of the repetition that's in my dialogue. Boy, I try to yank it out, but it still sticks in there. Try to get rid of page turn transitions, so I could do in-page transitions. Add more stuff that I've been always avoiding, which is sort of flashbacks and some stuff like that. So it was try to use a new set of tools to make stuff. And one of those sets of tools I wanted to use, was the Darwin Cook New Frontier grid and that 3-panel grid. What makes that good for me? And you play with numbers this way, but to me it was like, this is a 3-man effort. It's me, Mitch, and Doc. So there's 3 panels. This is a 3-person book. It's Adam, Alana, and Mr. Terrific, and it's sort of 3 points of view. So and also it made it easy because I could just see in my head that we could have, like I said, I've always in my whole career when I do a scene change, I always do it. I write to the end of the page. You turn the page over, like Batman's in Gotham. Turn the page over. Batman's in Saudi Arabia or whatever. So I was like, I want to get rid of that and do. So I was like, I can do 2 panels, then change, and then I can do a change to docs. And I got that idea from reading Los Bros Hernandez, who do that all the time, where they do just incredible these weird in-panel changes. So I stole that. So it's stealing a little bit from Darwin and a little bit from the Hernandez brothers.
That's awesome, man. Drew asks, with Rorschach being such an overt thumbing of the nose at the right-leaning politics of Ditko, is there a responsibility to take that origin to heart? Is there a fear about changing him too much?
Yeah, no, I think that there is a responsibility to talk about sort of what Moore was trying to do with Rorschach as sort of a right-leaning hero, and the idea that that his point of view, but in many ways, like when I was a kid, when I first read Watchmen, I remember I was like, I love this book. It's my favorite book. The one thing I didn't like about it, I was like, the author made a mistake. He fucked it up. He should have given Rorschach 10 seconds with Veet at the end. That's all I wanted. He could still die, but I just wanted just those 10 seconds of revenge. And Alan Moore, I call him Alan like I fucking know him. He doesn't know me. He only knows me to do spells against me because he hates me. But Moore denied us that moment. And when I was a kid, I thought Rorschach was the coolest thing. I thought he was the hero of that book, the only one who told the truth. And that's typical of Moore. Like he likes to undermine that stuff. Like, here's someone I don't know, but he's actually the hero, which I like. Yeah, no, I do feel you're right. And that in the book, like I was saying, the Hannah Arendt stuff, that stuff it plays to the heart of this book, what this book is about. Yeah.
Understood. No, you guys gave me a look at the first 2 issues, and I appreciate that. It's a very cool procedural.
It is. It is.
And I think people are going to be surprised in very positive ways. It's great to see that there's room, and I'd say the same thing about Strange Adventures, because they're unconventional in terms of their presentation, and I think people will be intrigued by that. And that's been the high mark of Black Label. I think, honestly, I hope Black Label has been successful commercially, because I would like to see DC continue in this vein and tell more stories like this. I'm hoping that's the case.
Oh, well, they just signed me up for 2 more these sort of Black Label projects. So whether it's commercial or not, they're making more of them.
That's great to hear.
So, yeah, it is. The first thing we did with Rorschach is we sort of threw away the 9-panel grids and threw away the structure and created a whole different structure based on old detective stories. Yeah. So,
that's nice.
I love Rorschach, by the way. And we're so far ahead. It's nice to say that about a book.
That's great.
Jorge just turned in the art for 6.
Wow.
So this will, I I believe it will come out on time. You will get 12 months, 12 issues, all by the same artist. I believe, unless someone gets sick or something.
So is Dave Johnson designing the covers?
No, they're being designed internally by a guy whose name escapes me, but who's a genius. He's DC got a new design guy, and he's fucking brilliant. And I don't think this has been announced yet, so don't tell anybody. But we did a thing with the covers like X-Men #1 back in the day. There's an image on the back of the covers. If you put all 12 together, it forms an image.
Oh, wow!
Like a card set. So
or Alan Moore back in America's Best Comics, Promethea.
Just like Promethea, yeah. So we took that. So.
Wow, very cool.
Oh, when you're working for Jim Lee, you got to use Jim Lee tricks.
John Holland wants to know: are you going to do another ongoing series or just maxi series?
Right now, it's just maxi. That's all I say to DC. Hey, I'm thinking of doing, a continuity something, and they're like, hey, Tom, here's like the greatest artists you can imagine, and all the freedom you want, and here's 8 to 12 issues, and you can even do them oversized if you want. And I was like, oh, okay, yeah, I'll take that. So that's right now. I'm only doing maxi series, and I write each one like a novel. I write differently now than I used to 2 years ago, where I write the series all together. I basically take 4 months off and write 12 issues in a row, which is what I did with Rorschach. Every issue, that's the way I'm doing it now. So yeah, I have right now 3 maxi series out and 3 more planned. So yeah, it's very, very maxi-ish.
James Robbins wants to know what type of music do you listen to?
Oh, I don't know. I get around. I've never been a music guy. It's my parents were. My mother was of the opinion, was one of her very strongest opinions, that music died the day the Beatles broke up, and she was strenuous in the fact that, like, in my cars growing up, we only listened to the oldies channel. Like, we did not listen to, and she pounded this in me to the point where I was like, oh, what is this? U2? Oh, that's punk music. It was like so I wasn't until I literally got, and I was a nerd, right? So I wasn't hanging out with the cool kids who were like, hey, man, when they said the Beastie Boys, I was like, oh, you guys, you don't understand the Beastie Boys. Have you even heard of John Lennon yet? So I didn't get that early music exposure that sort of lifts people into the stratosphere. I live so on a daily basis, but I have kids, right? So like I said, Archie, my one child, my youngest, is obsessed with Taylor Swift. I know every Taylor Swift song that ever existed. I can give you album and cover. We can discuss our best albums. So and also I hang out with Mitch, and he's a Swiftie. But in my house, there's usually a lot of Taylor Swift playing. At night, my kids fall asleep to 40s and 50s crooners. So I have a lot of Sinatra and Crosby and Peggy Lee going in my house at nighttime. When I personally have to listen to music where I want to write, if I want to like think serious about something, I'll put on some Bob Dylan. When in the aughts, I really liked indie aughts bands. What's stuff like Spoon and those kind of
Sure.
bands. Like I call it indie, but with a beat. It's kind of like that kind of stuff.
I like indie pop. I've always been an indie pop guy, and I continue to discover bands, as an older guy. But I usually go to Soma FM, the streaming music channels there. I get exposed to a lot of good new music there. I can't go to radio anymore, unfortunately. And isn't that stupid that you can't find good new music on radio? It bums me out because I was at one of the last great stations that still played new music. And they do to a degree on Thursdays. That's their new music day, WXRT. But not like they used to, and not like they did when I was a kid.
My daughter, who is 10, is all about top 40. So in the car, we're on the top 40. My son, who is 12, is all about classic rock for some random reason. So they fight over the classic rock versus top 40 stations.
Funny.
That is, yeah. Music is not my jam. I'm sorry. I love it, but I also have my brother is a musician. He's as bizarre as he's a professional tuba player, or he was for many years before he sort of he found Jesus and joined the church, and now he does music for the church for a living. But so I grew up with a lot of classical music because my brother was a classical tubist. So constant classical music going in my house, and boom, 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 boom.
Wow. Have you met Philip Kennedy Johnson yet?
Oh yeah, we hang out. Yeah, I know him, Philip. He's cool and very smart.
Yeah, man. I had my first conversation with him last week, and was blown away about man how well-rounded of a person he is as a musician, and his involvement in the military bands that he's played with, and touring with the Glenn Miller band before that. I'm like, wow, that's amazing.
I fucking hate him because I used to have the coolest story in comics. Oh, he used to be a spy. Now this dude's coming in. He's like active military. He's a fucking Trumpist. Yeah, man, he's blowing me out of the water. Fuck
You're killing me. That's hilarious.
Fuck that guy.
Where is it? Someone was asking about. Here it is. Ashraf LZ. What happened to your States of America TV show?
What happened to it? It was bought by a production company that still wants to make it. I wrote a pilot for it, and it's in Hollywood hell.
Okay.
Old Hollywood hell. I have other things that are farther along than that, so I don't pay attention to it very much. It's one of those things that I could push. Mitch is a Swift. You did, yeah, dude. Mitch, when he accepted his Eisner, he was wearing a Swift shirt. He's deep.
That's hilarious. Deep. Wayne says, I guess Pink Floyd isn't on your playlist. It's on mine, Wayne.
I love Pink Floyd. I saw Pink Floyd. It was my first concert I ever went to.
Really? Wow.
Yeah, I was like, what is? I was 13. I went with my brother, the tubist, who's older brother, so he was 17.
I wonder.
And I was like, what is that weird smell? Oh.
I was gonna say, I wonder if that was that mid-'90s tour when they came to Soldier Field here in Chicago.
It was a stadium tour. We were in LA and wherever UCLA plays, where the Bruins play.
Isn't it crazy now that they don't? You know, and I understand obviously Roger.
The Rose Bowl.
Oh wow. You know, I forget what the name of the band is that tours and plays Floyd music, but they're authorized by Pink Floyd to be like the official cover band. And they're very good, but I had no idea that they existed prior to they came through Chicago. And I'm like, is this a tribute band? And we're actually like making a commercial, and then all the classic rock guys are like, oh no, they're very respected by Floyd fans. And I'm like, all right, I've seen them on. They've shown their performances on public television before, and they do it very well. But you know, my God, I mean, again, I Roger Waters, David Gilmour, good Lord, massive fan. David Gilmour's solo stuff. I remember being in college and playing Gilmour's solo records and stuff, and loving them almost as much as his Floyd records. So
I still remember driving up to that show as an epiphany, just like being you're with your kid, you're with your older brother and his friends. And he's driving. Your brother just learned to drive, so you're like, oh my God, I'm in a car. My parents aren't here, and and they're sneaking beers. And you're like, oh my God, and I'm sure I'm remembering this wrong, but there was like a 3-hour line of cars to get in, and this was the 90s, so we were still on the edge of the hippie era, like. There were people in my high school who dropped out to follow the dead. Like I'm that old.
Oh yeah.
And so like that culture was there where they're just like, tie-dye and people are out of their minds on acid and they're just, and you're just like, oh my God, there's a whole different, like it was a huge eye opener. And I was like, wow, this is just absolutely amazing. I remember distinctly as sort of one of those eye-opening adolescent experiences.
When I was 11, my parents made me share a bedroom with my stepbrother, who was 7 years older.
Oh,
that poor guy, or even younger actually. But I remember us falling asleep to albums, and he would put Dark Side of the Moon on, and it's the most anti-sleep album. Well, try to fall asleep to Welcome to the Machine. It scared the shit out of me when I was a little kid, but then I grew to love it. So I guess almost like horror movies. And with horror movies, I stayed a wuss. But when I came to Pink Floyd, I'm like, actually, I kind of like this now. It's very comforting. Welcome to the Machine. I got to fall asleep. Can I put, so that'd be a way to put me to sleep right now is put that on. So that's great. I would write technical opinions, listening to Pink Floyd, the Australian Pink Floyd show. Yes. I can't remember the name of it though, Wayne, but yes, that is exactly who it is. They're the official tribute band. That cracks.
You have the best band. You have the best fans. They are all over, man. They are on the John.
Finger on the pulse of pop culture. Absolutely. The league knows what they're talking about. Definitely. What music does Superman listen to? That's a good question, Dan Dunn.
All the music. He has super hearing. It's in his head all the time. That and a lot of ska. He's a big ska fan. He just loves.
That's hilarious.
He loves late 90s ska. Yeah, my boss. No, I imagine my Superman. I have a very boring Superman whom I absolutely adore. I think the way to write Superman is just to write the best version of him possible and follow that track, to not make him evil, to not do anything. Just he always makes the right decision, and that always leads to conflict. And so I think my boring ass Superman will listen to boring ass music, and Lois would yell at him and be like, "Oh, come on, Perry Como."
Yes, he's a nerd. He's totally a nerd, and like, yeah, my mom and dad loved it. I love it too. Exactly. No, he's Ron Howard. He's a little Richie Cunningham. Absolutely.
Yeah, I think that's probably right.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right about that. That's hilarious. Yeah, if we thought for a moment about Superman, that's great. Aussie Floyd, I guess so. That's the band. Thank you, Wayne.
Superman is definitely a Swiftie. I can verify that's going to be in continuity because Mitch will draw him that way.
Ooh, here's a good question. When is Gotham Girl coming back? Is she coming back?
I have no idea. I doubt it. Every once in a while when I see her, when they have to like list every single female in the DC universe, she's like number 42nd. I could not have created a less popular character than Gotham Girl, although I love her, and I named her after my daughter. Her name is Claire Clover. My daughter's name is Claire. But I ended she was interesting because she had a cool power where the more she used her powers, the more it killed her, which I very much enjoyed. But I took that out at the very last issue and gave her just sort of Superman boring powers, and now she's sort of a Superman boring character. Because I just wanted to give her a happy ending because she's named after my daughter. So if she has a happy ending and goes off into nowhere land, that's perfectly fine with me.
Well, you put her through the ringer, so it's good that you gave her a happy ending.
Lord knows I put her through the ringer. So.
Hey, Mario reports, and I'm sorry to hear that Mac Davis passed away.
Who's
the great Mac Davis, the great singer-songwriter. Oh, Lord, it's hard to be humble, to be perfect in every way.
I just told you I'm bad at music, and you throw obscure music. Oh, well, I'm sorry, Mac Davis.
Mac Davis wrote "I Believe in Music." I believe in music. I believe in love. He was a great '60s and '70s songwriter. He wrote for Elvis, wrote for Dolly Parton. It's sad because literally he was just on Gilbert Gottfried's podcast just a few months ago.
Oh, that's
great
sad.
career, fast. I mean, amazing, and also not a bad film. Career as well. I want to say one of the football, because there's North Dallas 40 and there's the other 70s football movie. So there's the one with Burt Reynolds and there's one with
Don't they all have Burt Reynolds?
With none ever and Nick Nolte. And I think I believe because it was semi tough was Christopherson and Burt Reynolds, and North Dallas 40 was Nick Nolte and Mac Davis.
Oh. All right,
so yeah, that's a shame. Poor Mac Davis had a 70s variety show. Definitely more of a country songwriter and singer, but a pretty cool guy. So sorry, Mario. I appreciate you. Yes, indeed, Drew. Yes, you're right, Drew. He wrote "In the Ghetto" for Elvis. That's absolutely right. He did. Yes, he did.
Okay, well, that song I know. So
man, and Helen Reddy passed away. Good Lord, where they're dropping like flies from the '70s music era. Helen Reddy, "I Am Woman," "Hear Me Roar."
Oh. God, that sucks. The 70s the 70s are suddenly so far away.
Yeah, hey, dude, who you telling? I lived that decade. It's it blows my mind now that my 70s memories are becoming 50 years old now. Jesus. Frightening.
When I buy art and it's from 1970, it's now 50-year-old art. That blows my mind.
Yeah.
It's I've told you this before, but one of our comfort things we do is we watch a lot of Buzzer in my house, and we watch a lot of 70s game shows. And I like to sit there and be like, who of these people is still alive? And then that game doesn't work because they're all dead. And so who of these people saw 9/11? That's my new game. Like which one of these people?
It's terrible.
Because they were in some completely. Because I watch a lot of Match Game.
I love Buzzer, and not just Match Game. I love them all. Absolutely, man.
Oh yeah, I watch a lot. So I Google. My favorite thing is to try to Google the people who are on the show and see how they lived their lives after they were on this. It's
true.
The word balloon death
toll keeps growing. Well, I used to subject poor Franco. We would do at the beginning of the year. We'd do the death tributes who died in the previous year, and I would play like great Gothic kind of organ music as we would go through the list, and just acknowledge, and not in any mean way, but just acknowledge the celebrities that passed away the previous year. And Frank would be like, "It's getting really depressing, Johnny. I don't know if I want to keep this conversation going, Johnny. It's bumming me out." So these things happen. What are you gonna do? It's part of life, everybody. What are you gonna do? But I love Buzzer.
It's a terrible part of life.
I'm a big Tattletales fan with Bert Convy and the celebrity couples.
Tattletales is tough because I watch it with my children. Match Game is already on the edge if they shouldn't be watching this.
Oh yeah, it's adult. Yeah, it's definitely more adult.
It's adult. They're like, why is everyone giggling at this blank? And I was like, I don't want you to know. But yeah, Tattletales that's like the whole there's that great moment in 1974 when people when the older generation realized they had been released from all of the Moors that had been repressing them for so long, and they just went insane. And they're just like, what? We can talk about this shit now? Let's talk about sex every time we get on TV.
Did you ever see the movie as someone younger? Have you ever seen the movie Serial with Martin Mull?
No.
Serial is a fantastic 1979, 1980 movie that looks back at the 70s and absolutely nails everything that was goofy and wrong. I don't know if that was a Buck Henry movie or not, but it's such a great movie. But it absolutely makes fun of all, like, from hot tubs to est and, I got to drop out of society to, get a hold of my brain and stuff. And it's just like, okay, whatever. And it's hilarious. It's such a fantastic movie. So better yet, what are some comics you'd recommend? Well, we talked a little bit earlier about that, Henry.
Comics I recommend from the history. If you Google me, I wrote a thing for some famous website of comics I recommend you read in COVID. And there's some on there. Recently, I reread ElfQuest, which I've said many times I really love, and I think that still holds up. I just read a long interview with Wendy Penny, and what a fascinating life she's led.
Great.
I sent you that video. That's what I did. I texted you the video of Wendy Penny on the Mike Douglas show.
Yeah, it's Jamie Farr, and people might have seen it on the podcast, but we got Jamie Farr to give us his favorite comic books from back in the day, and it was a fantastic jag. And yeah, he was on Mike Douglas as a guest host, and they had from the original New York Comic Con the guy who created the direct market. Now,
was it Mark Suling? Is that what it is?
Phil
Suling.
Yes. And Phil had some of his Golden Age comic books with
including an Action Comics #1 that he just had in a pile of comics.
A stack on his lap. It was hilarious. And Jamie Farr, chapter and verse. Hey, look at that. Wow, there's Bullet Man and Captain Marvel and Mr. Scarlet. I mean, he knew everybody. And then at the very end, they surprised him with a surprise date that he could go on. And out comes Red Sonja, and it's Wendy Penny, who back in the 70s would cosplay Red Sonja all the time. So
she almost invented modern cosplay.
You could argue that. I mean, they did it.
They did it, but she was
50s,
one of the founders, I would say, of sort of.
Of her generation, I would. Yeah, absolutely. So no, Wayne agrees. Wendy was a great Red Sonja. Yeah, you can look it up, and literally, it's funny because it literally is more a Jamie Farr Loves Comics segment of Mike Douglas, but it's listed on YouTube as Wendy Penny as Red Sonja on Mike Douglas, and she only shows up for the last 30 seconds of the segment.
Well, she did a show with Frank Thorne, who was drawing Red Sonja at the time. They did a literal show they took from convention to convention where Frank Thorne would dress up as a wizard and like host a show where Wendy Penny would do like almost like a cool like fight dance kind of thing. And if Frank Thorne is like the definitive Red Sonja artist, and if you look at his art, his Red Sonja slowly turns into Wendy Penny because like eventually she sort of became the character. They have this weird. You could do a whole post. I'm sure Alan Moore would do something great with that I can't think of. But she became almost Red Sonja.
David Hyde joining us. Who would win, Batman, Dragonfly, or Dragonfly Man? Ooh, there's an Ahoy Comics reference. I like it. That's fantastic. Have you read those?
Yes, I have, and they're amazing. Ahoy is killing it, and
agreed.
And Jamal Eigel's one of my favorite people in the world, and he deserves all the success. So read some of that book.
You're right. No, and I love Jamal as well. Tom Pyre, I've gotten to know him recently.
Oh, yeah,
and Stuart Moore, an old friend, and
Stuart Moore also at that. One of my very first signings, and was very friendly. And I was Stuart Moore's intern back in the day because he was at Vertigo when I was an intern. He was head of their science fiction division and was the guy who brought Transmetropolitan to life.
Wow, that's excellent. No, I'm a huge fan of Ahoy, and they are killing it with their books. They're legitimately funny books. They got Mark Russell over there, and a lot of great ideas in comic book comedy. So I'm quite a fan. Oh, now Greg asked earlier.
But the answer is Batman. Batman wins. Batman always wins. He's Batman.
All right, I'll accept that.
I just say that as a Batman writer. So
It depends who's publishing the crossover. If it's DC, then Batman wins. If it's Ahoy, then of course Dragonfly wins, or Dragonfly Man for that matter. That's why I love The Wrong Earth, and I just love the idea of an Adam West hero in a Frank Miller world, and still like, yeah, no problem, I got it. It's like I got this under control because he's like Lancelot. That's what I kind of back when we didn't know what Man of Steel was going to be, or maybe it already came out. But I'm like, and my initial reaction was Superman is almost like a Lancelot, and you can put him in a very dark Watchmen kind of anti-world, a Zack Snyder world, but he's Superman, and he is so pure that it won't faze him, and that his pureness will guide him through whatever terrors he sees in a dark and dank world. And I felt that instead, Zack in Man of Steel, and we'll see in his Justice League cut how things evolve. But based on the two movies that we saw that Joss Whedon didn't put his hand in, I just felt Superman was too ashamed of himself, ashamed of his powers, all that stuff. I'll be interested to see what the Snyder cut is. But yeah, I always felt that. Again, I felt he could be like Dragonfly Man, and be this kind of pure thing. That I'm in a shitty world, but my heroism will guide me. I'll be fine.
Well, I mean, if you look at the first Superman movie, which I recently rewatched with my kids, I mean, that's a pretty dark world too, man. It ends with a very dark Brando segment. The special effects are bad, but it's dark when the planet blows up, and it's played very seriously. And then the New York of Superman 1 is the New York of the 70s, man. It's not at all cartoony. Oh, yeah. I mean, you feel like you're in a late 70s crime film.
Absolutely.
You expect Serpico to come around the corner. But the performance, just like you said, I mean, he is the Lancelot. He shines. I mean, through that darkness with that Superman performance.
Yeah, I think so. That's funny. It's because his dad was a dick. No, he wasn't a dick. He was too fearful. I just didn't agree with the way the Kents were portrayed in Man of Steel.
I have many opinions on that, but now that I'm officially writing a DC Universe movie, my official opinion is that everything the DC Universe does was fantastic.
Just great.
Hey, perfection.
I loved the Man of Tomorrow animated movie that I saw during DC Fandom.
Oh, I didn't see that. Was it good?
They showed you could watch the whole movie. Yeah, it was terrific, and it really was a year zero Superman story that borrowed from Byrne, but also told its own story. Oh. And it was really cool. And Clark was an intern at the planet before he got his first scoop. And Lois was also an intern, but she beat him to it and got a Luthor scoop early. And that was like the difference. So she had already graduated to be a reporter, and Clark was still the coffee boy intern and everything. But I was really impressed. I thought it was a really good retelling and a reimagining of the origin and had a lot of fresh ideas. I really enjoyed it.
I mean, I can't speak. Like I said, I'm not gonna say anything negative about my employer. So take everything I'm about to say with a grain of salt. Just so I can be honest with the listener. But I mean, obviously, I came into this sort of movie business with the new regime that had just moved in, and they've been nothing but awesome as far as I can tell. Super encouraging. They're like, take risks, be your own person, treat these characters with respect. I mean, going to a comic book writer for the New Gods movie, and going to Ava, who is a visionary director with a point of view. And they're just like, go. They're like, do your thing. Just make the best movie. It's not like we want to control it, or it has to be this, or it has to be dark, or it has to be light. It's just like, just make the best movie. It's always been what they've been telling us. So you rarely say good things about a movie studio. I'm nothing but happy. And I take all that with a grain of salt, that if that wasn't true, I would lie and say it anyways, but it's true.
That's good to hear. And I hope you are telling the truth. That's fantastic. Greg, in the same way that you tried to throw out the structural calling cards of Watchmen for Rorschach, how did you throw out the structural calling cards of Dark Knight Returns for Batcat, if Batcat is to be your Dark Knight Returns? Is it your Dark Knight Returns, Tom?
I'll try. I don't know. It depends. You don't want to say something. I mean, yes, it is. It's my attempt to do that. It's my attempt. But I feel like if I say it's my Dark Knight Returns, then I don't know. I'm tempting the fates. I gotta. I'll tell you if my Dark Returns after it's done. It's not all in the box yet.
Has it changed much from when it was going to be your closing arc on your Batman run, rather than being this separate entity that it's become?
Yes, it's changed. I mean, it's gotten bigger and more ambitious is how it changed. I mean, the end of my Batman arc was supposed to be sort of a gentle but beautiful sort of love story leading up to this wedding. And when they gave me this leeway to work with one artist instead of, obviously with that, I would have worked with probably 3 or 4 artists on that. When they gave me the leeway to work with one artist, and with Clayman, who I think is the best artist in comics, in my humble opinion, also one of my best friends, and just an awesome dude. When they gave me that option to do one thing with one artist, I realized I could do something much more ambitious that wasn't just the scale of 2 people falling in love, but was the scale of looking at their 80-year history and 80-year history of these characters. And I came up with this story idea that didn't just incorporate the present day, which is the Phantasm story, but incorporated the first time they met, and then right after the first time they met, and right after the last time they met, right after Batman dies. And then I started seeing this as these sort of 3 stories that interacted with each other and bounced off each other at the same time, and in this sort of true detective or Pulp Fiction kind of way. And so that's how it changed, is that my eyes got bigger and I decided I wanted to do something bigger and more definitive. And I had the chance to do what I never got to do with Batman, which was take a breath. Batman was double ship. And it had to be the #1 book every week. And so that meant editorial was in your lap the whole time, which, that's nice. That's their job, but they were in your lap, and you had to have great artists on there, and great artists, like I've said many times, can do between 6 and 8 books in 12 months. When you're doing 24 books, that means you're working with 3 to 4 artists at the same time. When you're writing for 3 to 4 artists, that means you're writing issue 1 and then issue 5 and then issue 7 and then issue 12, and then going back and doing issue 2 and so you're always, you never have a chance to do like we did with Mr. Miracle or like we were in Strange Adventures, to sort of take a breath and be like, what's the best I can make this comic? What's the themes? How can I deep? So, but this is my chance to do that.
No, I hear you, man. Honestly, double shipping is a great thing for the reader. But if you don't have 2 writers and 2 art teams, you're really, I think, putting a lot of pressure on the creatives. And honestly, I mean, Ed Brubaker himself told me on this very podcast that's why he wanted to leave Marvel, was it was just too much work and not enough time to let a story breathe and think about a story and stuff. And now look at the different things that he's doing. And I think I'm glad. I mean, I miss him in Marvel, I won't deny it. But by the same token, we're getting some incredible comics. And that's why it's a really exciting time right now in comics. So I can appreciate that.
It was never too much work. That was never the bother part of it. It was because it was basically, Seeley first said this to me, is you always want to sort of be writing 4 comics at once to be a professional comic book writer. So you basically want to do 1 comic a week, and I stick by that to this day. And so it was basically the equivalent of writing 2 comics. So I just could only do 2 side comics at the same time. So it wasn't more work for the writer. The work came in how to incorporate the art. That was sort of the tricky part of it, and to get things out, because it couldn't be late. You could, if you missed a deadline, like we just moved back Strange Adventures for a week to make sure the issue was perfect. You can't do that with Batman because stores lose too much money. So it was. But look, I think all that whining and complaining I just did, the great part of comics, really the aspect to it that appeals the most to me, that I think is the genius of the medium, is the fact that it's a deadline medium. It's made by people who are trying to get a paycheck, who are trying to pay for their kids. And that because of that, there's something honest and blue collar about it. And when I was working on Batman, it felt like I was an honest and blue collar days of work. I wasn't like, oh, I'm so artsy-fartsy, I'm trying to make. I was like, fuck, get out the door, man. I'm making Pulp Fiction. That's how you got to do. So, I mean, I think that's an honest and good way to make comics, and the way most comics should be made.
That's cool. Dylan, your second question regarding Phantasm's role in Batcat, I'm going to refer you to rewinding back earlier in the show because we talked about that. But I will put this up there. Do you know if your Batman run is going to be completed in oversized hardcover?
I believe it is, yes. Yeah, that's my understanding, is that it's going to be all come out in oversized hardcover. The latest volume just came out. Sadly, and I'm as pissed as you are as fans, they switched from glossy paper to the new DC trade paper, which I think looks good in a trade paperback because it looks more like paper stock, and so the colors are a little better. But I like him a big over hardcover. I like glossy paper. I don't know why. I think because I'm used to reading those oversized Marvels they used to do. That I don't know if I can get in my office and show those things that are way up there on the shelf there. Those oversized Marvels. Oh, look at that. Boom. That's just me. Oh my God, you're seeing too much of my comic books.
We see him. That's awesome, man.
So I feel like someone just screenshot, man. I go have a Chris Pines experience.
What happened with Chris? Was that his nude picture or whatever?
Yeah, screenshotted his screenshot, so they got a nude picture of him. I don't think there's any nude. My understanding is that there are no nude pictures of me up in this room, but whenever.
Unless your wife has done some redecorating, absolutely. Oh my God.
But yeah, so I just missed the gloss. Look at me. That's how nerdy I am telling you about glossy paper. But I hope hopefully someday they'll even reprint it with glossy paper.
Can we expect any other Bat family members appearing in the Batcat book? You don't have to spoil, but you know.
Gordon's in it.
Okay.
Now that I think about it, yeah, there's some Dick Grayson in the book.
Okay.
Some big Dick Grayson moments.
Dick moments coming up.
Dick moments in Batcat, yeah. So, and there's some Alfred in it because part of it takes place in the past. There's but it's very focused. I mean, when I have those four characters of Batman, Catwoman, Phantasm, and the Joker. So that they take up enough real estate, those four.
I got to tell you, man, I really was bummed when you killed Alfred. That said, I really have been intrigued at the direction the Bat books have gone in his absence. And my God, that annual, if it was an annual, that great Pennyworth kind of everyone having their little Alfred stories really, really got to me as well. And I don't remember if you had a story in there or not, Tom.
I don't think so. No, I wrote a sad Pennyworth story that'll make you cry. I think it's Batman 82 or 83. That's the one. If you want to read me making you cry with Alfred, I'll
have to go back and read that. That's fantastic. Yeah, absolutely.
I did one myself, a whole issue of it. So
that's great, man.
Yep, I was surprised as you guys were when Alfred died because he wasn't supposed to die. That was a twist. In my outline, he wasn't supposed to die. So it was a shocker to me.
John Lou wants to know how it's been working with George or Jorge on Rorschach. It seems like he's the perfect artist for this.
It's the easiest, best thing in the world. How is it working with him? This is what happened with Jorge. This is the story of Jorge. And he'll probably tell it differently from his side, so maybe I'm not telling the truth. I saw Jorge's art on Twitter. He would just post Batman splashes he would do as fan art. And I don't know if he reached out to me or I reached out to him, but I got in touch with him and said, I'm on the Batman book. Why aren't you drawing Batman? And he's like, he was doing like, an Aftershock book or something. Who cares about Aftershock? I'm just kidding. And I proposed him for DC, and boy, they didn't like his art. And because they're crazy people. And I love them to death, but they were like, they came back and they said, oh, he just looks like Mazzucchelli. I was like, yes, he looks like Mazzucchelli. Come on. That's how is that an insult? And I pushed for him. And he started getting little gigs here and there to fill in issues and stuff on Batman looking beautiful. And then he got the Daredevil gig and he did great over there. And so he was sort of rising. And then we did an annual together, my annual number 4. And to me, I've written, but that's like the top 3 Batman stories I've ever written. I love that annual. And I got the art back. And it was to me an epiphany because I was like, oh, I've been working with Jorge thinking he was a really good artist. I didn't realize he was a fucking genius. I didn't know I had like an Alex Toth on my hands. It was very similar to speaking of like these great Spanish artists. But when I worked with Gabriel Walta, when I forgot the first Vision pages back, I was like, oh, he's something else. He's like, And I immediately was like, I called him or emailed. I was like, I don't care what you do next, but please do it with me. Well, I'll follow you anywhere. I just need to. And so and Rorschach was something that had been proposed to me, and I had fought for it. I was like, well, if we do Rorschach, they'll let me take an artist. And I knew he would be just utterly perfect for it. And yeah, he's an absolute joy. His layouts are perfect. He's doing very complicated stuff. And it's a fun project because I've never done this before, where I was like, at the very beginning, I was like, here's the first 12 issues. So now you know what the ending is. So you can do all the stuff in the middle to make it adjusted. So it's a joy. Jorge's a joy.
Excellent. Dylan has a Rorschach question, but again, I'm going to refer to you to earlier in the conversation, Dylan. I'm sorry that you're late to the game, but good news is it's a nice lengthy conversation, and there's a lot to go back and check out. Dan Dunn, what is the book you're looking forward to most? Mine is The Other History of the DC Universe. I agree. I'm excited for that book as well.
The book I'm looking forward to the most? The true story of how Trump lost the election. I know it's going to be fucking great. I don't know. A comic that's coming out that I'm super looking forward to.
Oh, Tom Taylor's What If scenario he's going to do at Marvel.
I mean,
I'm excited for that.
I know about comics that you don't know about, so it's hard for me to say because, I'm looking forward to stuff, but I don't know what's been announced.
I understand.
What hasn't been announced. I am looking forward to Tom Taylor's next project. I don't know if that's been announced, but it's amazing, and it's with an amazing artist.
Good to know.
I'm looking forward to a Nick Darrington project that hasn't been announced. That's going to be a huge, big splash thing.
Cool.
And, there's a lot. Josh Williamson is doing.
I was going to say, I figured, Josh wrapping up Flash is obviously going to have something new to talk about soon. I'm going to have to be bugging him.
Yeah, Josh is amazing. So yeah, those are things I'm looking forward to. But I don't know what's announced, not announced. So I don't know I don't want to break the rules.
I understand. Matthew wanted to know what your original outline call was regarding an outfit. Was it going to be a Clayface cop-out?
No, I purposely put in. There's a moment where it's revealed that the Joker was actually Clayface because I didn't want people to think it was a Clayface cop-out. No, it was a different kind of cop-out. It was it was going to be a Scarecrow cop-out. It was going to be if you look closely at the issue, you'll still see there's like a little bit of gas hints in the background. I put some stuffing because literally he didn't decide to die until the actual issue came out. So I think there are still hints if you look close enough that it was supposed to be like
Scarecrow fever dream kind of gas reaction.
Yes, they gave Damian Scarecrow gas, and he saw his worst fear, and it was Alfred being killed.
Gotcha.
That was the way out of the cliffhanger.
Star Trek question for Greg.
Star Trek question. I'm in. Dude, I just read 2 Star Trek novels. I got so nerdy, I got back into the novels. I hadn't read them all.
Which ones?
I read 3. I read the Peter David Imzadi, which is
that's a great next gen novel.
It was on the list of all the best lists. It was always number 1. They're like, we all know Imzadi is the best Star Trek novel. So I had read it when I was 14 or 15. I remember reading it as OJ drove to, I grew up in LA.
Hilarious.
And I remember reading that book, and I was literally like, I wasn't very far. I was like blocks from the car driving by, and we're all like looking out our window, being like, "We hear the cops."
In the Bronco,
in the Bronco, I remember reading that book. And I read the other Peter David book, which was that's what got me back into it. Vendetta, which is his Borg book, which I very much liked.
Which also tied the Doomsday Machine with the Borg, correct?
Yes, which tied the Doomsday Machine with the Borg, yes. As the Doomsday Machine is controlled by a girl that Picard's in love with, very Peter David twist, which was also very good. I think Imzadi is probably a little better if I had to pick between the two, but that's also, Peter David is my favorite.
Star Trek novelist?
Star Trek, well, no, the Star Trek fiction, I don't know what you'd call him, but I like his comics too. Fictional Star Trek world. If I read a Peter David Star Trek comic, the voices are perfect.
Extended universe, I suppose, is a way to look at it. Yeah.
Yeah, extended universe writer or something. I haven't read all the stuff. I know he created the whole New Frontier.
Yes, Mackenzie Calhoun, a fine captain. Absolutely, no,
but
very cool.
And
then also, those books are great because Elizabeth Shelby's his first officer. Yeah, and Admiral Jellicoe, Captain Jellicoe shows up. He's been promoted because of all of his fine work. So now he's Admiral Jellicoe. Ronnie Cox is a great character from Chain of Command. Dr. Salar, I believe, is the doctor on the ship that Mackenzie Calhoun captains and stuff. No, there's a lot of callbacks. A lot of callbacks. As a kid,
when I'm a kid, 13, 14, I read a Star Trek book a week for probably like 2 years. I read 100 of them.
I believe it. Yeah, well, there were that many, so you could easily do it.
It was like just when DS9 was in its first few seasons, so you could read DS9 novels or original or TNG, and I could shift between the three. And then I read one of the June and Garfield. They're very good writers.
Yes.
And they wrote on
Reeve Stevens.
Reeve Stevens, yes, they wrote on Enterprise. They wrote on that stuff. And I read their Prime Directive, which when I was a kid was my favorite Star Trek novel. But I listened to that on audio, and it's so if Audible, if you're listening, I'm sure you're not listening. So first of all, number one, if you're listening, vote for Biden. Number two, if you're Audible and listening, fix your fucking Star Trek library. You've got these brilliant. The problem is they made these great Star Trek books that are all narrated by great cat. They have like Leonard Nimoy narrating a Star Trek book, which is awesome, or Walter Koenig.
And Scotty did a lot of the books, yeah.
But because those things were done in 1984 or whatever, or 1992, and they had to be on tapes, they're all abridged. So you're getting books that would normally be 15 hours in an hour and a half. And it's incomprehensible. They cut so much out. It doesn't even make sense.
Oh, I think the Entropy Effect is a pretty good adaptation of one of the original novels. And it was Sulu narrating it, but it would have interludes of Nimoy as Spock reading his parts of the story. And oh man, I don't know, man. I love that one in particular. I think that one is amazing.
Well, I read New Frontier, and it was it was Scotty as the narrator. It was funny hearing him do Kirk. Was a trip.
Well, he's an old radio actor as well.
Yeah, he's a voice actor. Yeah,
right, and of course on the animated series did a lot of the other incidental characters and stuff. So, I'm a big Jimmy Doohan fan. Absolutely.
Oh yeah, his body was launched into space. He's awesome. So I read that, and I read, which I recommended to you, the big book on, which is not, I guess, technically a Star Trek book, but The City on the Edge of Forever. I read that there's a whole book on, it's on Audible, that's where I did it, but and it goes in minute detail that you would never want to know in your life on what happened on The City of the Edge of Forever and how it was rewritten and written and like 17 essays as if this was the Nobel Prize being given out, and they had to examine it like it was a Zapruder film.
And I haven't purchased it yet from Audible. It is does Harlan narrate it himself?
Harlan does a 2.5 hour rant, and which is the craziest fucking thing, and is the most entertaining 2.5 hours you'll ever have in your life. If you download The City on the Edge of Forever from Audible, you'll get Harlan. I think it's got to be, I think, in the early aughts. So it's like 10 years before he died or something.
Yeah.
And he just goes off. And he throws everyone on the bus. He's like, Shatner's a piece of shit. Roddenberry's a piece of shit. Are you listening to this? And you like Star Trek? You're a piece of shit. He's just like, he's like, anyone who didn't give me an award is a piece of shit. And it's like pure joy listening to this. He's the curmudgeon. You just, I love you, Harlan. That's what you are in this society. You were the person who could yell truths at us. So yeah, I read that. I'm a little torn because I still, in my heart of hearts, might not like Harlan's version better. So don't tell Harlan I said that. I know he's an ex-Harlan.
Michael wants to know favorite Star Trek movies. That's easy.
Oh, you want me to rank them? I can rank the first 9, I guess. Maybe 10. No, I can probably rank them all. To me, 2 is the best. It seems like such a cliche, but it is the best one.
It is.
Then I would jump up to 6. which I think is almost as good. I know it has the same director. So
Sure.
I think that is just a superb Star Trek. And it's just a really good movie. Then I would jump to probably I go back to 3, which I like. I know it's an odd number, so people get mad at it.
No, but I love Search for Spock. I think stealing the Enterprise is like one of the greatest scenes ever.
Yeah.
And now, Mr. Scott, sir, the doors. Yeah, I'm working on it. And it's just like, yeah, easy, man.
And when they blow up the Enterprise,
wow.
And
also it's that callback to that Frank Gorshin half white, half black face where they're playing poker with the guys trying to seize the ship, and it's like, hey, I'll blow up the ship, and they're going to do it because it's the same sequence, and it's like, holy shit, this is amazing! Absolutely, no, I love 3. I think 3, and of course Jim Ignatowski is the Klingon commander, Captain Kirk.
I guess we got the ship confused.
Okie doke.
Okie doke. And I love when the ship is crashing and Kirk looks up and like that only Shatner voice where he's like, Spock, what have I done? And Spock's like, what you always do, or maybe it's McCoy, I don't know. It's McCoy, yeah. What you always do, Jim, you turn death into hope, or some like perfect line.
Fighting
like
chance
that.
to live, absolutely.
Fighting chance. I love that moment. So then 3, then I'd go 4, which is fun. Oh
my God, Chekhov's interrogation scene. It's so fantastic in that. Name. My name? No, my name. I did not know your name.
when he legit asks the lady and she doesn't know she's in the movie and it's for directions to the nuclear weapons and she fucking tells him.
Alameda.
Yeah.
That's what I said. Alameda. Yeah, where is Alameda?
That's where that movie is legit. And it's legit scary, man. That whale noise. Whenever I get in the water, I was like, man, I never want to hear that whale noise.
All right, Mitch, you're wrong. Mitch, you're wrong. I mean, I think the 2009 movie is fine. And then the other 2, not so much.
Okay, Mitch, yeah. We'll fight over that later.
What are you going to do?
What are you going to And then I'm still going. So then 5, then I'd probably do 7. I like 7. Nobody likes 7 but me.
7 is First Contact?
The first the Next Generation mix.
Oh, it's Generations.
Yeah, Generations. I like that movie. I like Picard and Shatner together. I think it's when they're on the horse and he takes the horse to the side.
It has a couple nice moments, but it really was a missed opportunity to not have more than what they gave us.
Oh man, Shatner's one line, he's like, when Picard's trying to force him to come, he's like, let me guess, the odds are against us and we'll never win. And he goes, yep. He goes, sounds like fun. Oh man, that's such a fucking Kirk movie.
Oh yeah, but I also I agree with that. No, and I mean, Kirk had some nice moments. They shouldn't have killed him. It was so stupid to kill him.
Yeah, it was such a dumb death. I used to, because he doesn't die for a real good reason. I don't remember the details, but I remember as a kid dissecting it and being like, wait, did he sacrifice himself? Because when you're a kid, you're like, it's cool if someone dies if they sacrifice themselves. That's like, when you're growing up, you're like, oh, death is so mean. But when you're a kid, you really want that to. And I was like, oh, it doesn't seem like he sacrificed himself for that much. It seems like he could have just. To me, it was like the last scene in Titanic. Like he could have just gotten on the stupid thing and floated. So I would do 7, and then I would do 8. I'm the only person who doesn't like 8. I know everyone loves it, but
First Contact.
Yeah, I don't love First Contact. I think the like dancing and rock and roll stuff is just over the top. But it's a solid movie, but. And I don't like the fact that the Borg has a leader. I think that's a cop-out. The whole point of the Borg is they don't have a leader.
I agree with that. The Borg queen.
Then I'd go back and do 5, which I think has some wonderful, wonderful moments. But
I like 5, and it's a stupid movie, but there's a lot of fun in that movie. Oh my God.
5 has some. I mean, why is God needs a starship is the best line in all 20 films or whatever it is. Like that is my favorite fucking line. Josh Williams and I quote us back and forth. He fucking looks fucking God in the face, and he's like, "Why do you need a starship? That's God. That's the most badass thing that's ever been done in the history of movies." And also like McCoy gets to act in that movie in the sad scene where he's crying. It's got some
over his father. Yes,
over his father.
Oh, it's terrible. Well, also I love just the silly moments that are fun, like when Scotty blows through the brig and he's like, don't you know when there's a jailbreak in front of you? Get in here. That's cute, but also the whole ridiculousness of Cybok that Kirk acts out. It's like, I know you don't have a brother. Because if, you've never talked about it. Technically, you're right. I don't have a brother. Say, I have a half brother. He's like, I got to sit down. All right, enough of this crap. And yeah, it's true. I mean, you felt with Kirk. It's like, come on, where's this coming from? And also, poor Lawrence Luckinbill, it was supposed to be Sean Connery. They wanted Sean Connery. Connery's like, I'm not going to get in this crap. Go away. So they had to settle for Lawrence Luckinbill, Lucy Arnaz's husband, who's a good character actor. And I think he did a fine job. I always feel bad for him. It's like, it's not his fault.
I thought he did fine. It's just the movie is kind of a little
weird.
A little rickety. It's a little rickety.
Yeah. And of course, middle-aged Uhura doing the fan dance. Nobody needs that. But I'll say it. All right. God, they just parodied it in Star Trek Lower Decks. Are you watching Star Trek Lower Decks?
I'm not. Should I watch this?
No, you shouldn't.
Oh, okay.
No, it's very bad. It's very, very, and it's too bad because it's the closest thing to decent Trek of the new Star Trek. And again, this is all my opinion. But I am disappointed. There needs to be a change at the top. I mean, well, and last Thursday they ran the first episode of Discovery on over the air network on CBS, and they're showing the first season Thursday nights at 10 your time, 9 my time, and it got very low ratings. And I'm like, okay, nobody either. You've either got the people that have already seen it, and you got the rest of us don't care. Sorry, it's time for a change. These guys running Star Trek, they don't know what they're doing. They got to go.
My opinion. It's all your opinion. I think if I look, anyways, 1 is the worst one. Star Trek 1 is the worst. The problem with Trek with me is it seems so obvious what you should do next, which is you should just be like, okay, we're 100 years after Next Generation. Here's a new crew. Here's a new pilot. They're interesting. Here's 2 of them are from a fantastic alien race. One of them is a hotshot pilot, and let's go. Like, I don't understand. That seems like the most obvious thing in the world. And until they do that, I'm kind of like you guys. It kind of is bizarre to me. I don't know. It's very weird to not do the obvious thing.
I completely agree with everything you've just said. Yeah. I mean, what else? What else can we say? By the way,
go back in time, and we're gonna have a crew that you don't even get to know the bridge crew. And I was like, no, all you have to do is go 100 years in the future.
Well, and it's go just like they did with Next Generation. Go into the future. Tell us what's happening 100 years, or even 80 years, like they did with Next Generation. I don't understand it.
And do a plot thing, but also do one and dones. Star Trek's one and dones, baby. You gotta do some one and dones.
Yeah, are you wiped? It's 1:40 your time. Go to bed. I mean, we've been going for like 2 hours ish. It's up to you, Tommy. I mean, there's more questions. It's up to you.
I'll take a few more questions. Just a few more. I'll go.
Let's see. Mitch says, of course, that new Star Trek needs more lightsabers. Very true.
Yeah, I mean that's so obvious. Duh, Mitch. What do you do? You know what Mitch is? He's a fucking nerd. I don't even know what a lightsaber is.
I know you mentioned this earlier. One artist that you wanted to work with that you haven't yet.
That is a great question. Dan DiCarlo, but he's sadly deceased.
All right, fair enough.
An artist I would love to work with that I haven't yet. Jerry Ordway.
That's cool. We can make that happen. Jerry's a buddy.
I just worked with Walt Simonson for the first time, and it was an absolute joy.
Was that for Detective for 1027?
For 1027, yes.
Wow.
It was. They offered me like 6 artists. I was like, no, just Walt. That's who I wanted. And then they're like, yeah, we can make. And he said yes, as long as I did a Dr. Phosphorus story, which I think was the oddest request I've ever gotten in my life. I was like, because he created Dr. Phosphorus back in 1978 or 7 or
yeah,
something.
whatever it was in the 70s. Absolutely, that's amazing.
So we did, and he was that was just an absolute dream come true. Yes, the artists I want to work with are the people who are sort of my heroes that I haven't gotten around to yet.
What are your favorite non-superhero comic books
of all time? Sorry, I have my favorite comic books back here, so I'm looking. I love Box Office Poison, Mouse Robinson, Mouse, of course. is the best thing that was ever done.
Spiegelman, yeah.
Spiegelman. I have so many superhero. I love all of Eisner's work he did post Contract of God. I think it's all just the most brilliant thing. And he was in his 60s and 70s when he did it. So if you're a comic book creator out there and you're like, ugh, I'm 50, I'll never get this gig. Fucking Eisner did Contract of God when he's in his 60s. And it's drawn and read beautifully.
Literally worked on comics till the day he died, just like Joe Kubert did. Absolutely, man.
I love Usagi Yojimbo.
The great Stan Sakai also coming to Baltimore Comic Con. Walt's going to be at Baltimore Comic Con as well.
Amazing. I love Uncle Scrooge.
Sure.
The Bark stuff. And we already discussed that I love the Brothers Hernandez, both of them.
Yes, indeed.
All that stuff. And
Dan wants to know if you read any manga.
I don't read manga. I'm sorry.
I read very little manga as well, I have to confess.
I did. I read Pluto, which I loved. If I had to recommend a manga, talk to my buddy Julian Lytle. He's the manga. He gives me all these recommendations that I sadly ignore because he's a fucking genius. But yeah, no, I'm too old. I can't read it backwards. I know there's like, I'm once you hit 40, you accept things about yourself, and I can't read backwards. I know. Like the panels go backwards. It doesn't work.
No, I'm the same way, man.
What a crazy question. First of all, Barks, because he's one of the geniuses of the medium, he probably top 5 comic book creator of all time. And second of all, Rosa is a grumpy motherfucker. I went to many conventions and had that man yell at me while getting sketches. So I have a wall of Rosa up because when my kids were young, I would go to conventions and get them Rosa sketches, and they were beautiful, and he would do such a great job on them. But boy, man, he was so mad at me all the time whenever I got those sketches.
I understand, man. Absolutely. How about any EC stuff?
Oh, EC's my jam. I love it, man. That's my favorite thing ever. I don't know if you can. I have one EC page up there, way up in the wall there. I have an Al Williamson page, if you look.
Wow.
Yeah, that's the. I mean. My kid asked me the other day, he's like, what's the best comics have ever been, like in terms of a publisher? And I said it was EC Comics.
Interesting. Sure.
In 1950. I consider that to be the most talent that was ever working on comics at one time was the
That's
EC,
awesome.
Was the EC bullpen.
John asked if, of course, Love and Rockets, but yeah, you've been mentioning the Hernandez brothers this whole time, John.
Yes, I love Rockets. I don't tell, but I like Jaime's a little better than Gilbert's if I had to choose.
I've only met Gilbert. I met Gilbert in San Diego years ago, and I was so happy for Teenie Howard when she and Berto were doing Assassinistas. That's what it was called, her book.
I had dinner with Gilbert when he was working on the Darwin Cookbook that launched at the same time as Sheriff, when I was just a little baby comic book creator sitting literally next to Gilbert Hernandez, and I couldn't even talk. I was such a nerd.
George wants to know your favorite EC story or artist.
Al Williamson is my favorite EC artist. I mean, the best story of all EC is Master Race by Kriegstein. And,
sure.
And people fight over who wrote it. Lots of people have claimed, but I think Feldstein has the best claim on it. I'm not sure. So yeah, I mean that's the greatest EC story of all time. That's almost canon is the greatest. If anyone doesn't know, it's about a Holocaust survivor who's in New York and he sees his killer on the subway platform, and they have a confrontation. 20 years after the Holocaust.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
to me. That's my son. So I had a problem. So I have the EC collections back here, and my son took off one of the books and started reading. He's 11, and I had this big moral moment where I was like, they're all about sexy girls getting killed.
Sure.
And I was like, I should take this book away from him because I'm a father and that's not. But then I was like, but they were made for 11-year-olds and I'm against censorship and he's a smart kid. And so I was like, all right, I'm going to let him have. I still don't know if I made the right choice. But my son went through all these. So if his brain rots and he becomes a serial killer, blame it on Wally Wood.
Carl wanted to know what team you think deserves the silver screen treatment. What team?
I mean, the fact that there's not a Pixar Metal Man movie seems absurd to me. That writes itself, right? Like an animated Metal Man movie should happen yesterday.
That sounds right.
That seems to me, that seems the most thing. Yeah, teams are up there. Is there like a great DC team that hasn't been repped? I guess I could think of a Marvel team that hasn't been repped. Power Pack? Power Pack would be awesome. I mean, FF. No one's ever made a good FF movie. Maybe it's not possible.
Here's something interesting. Greg says, "You shall know the truth, and the truth shall set you free," is famously written on the wall at the CIA's lobby. Did this verse inform your work before comics? And how does it inform Strange Adventures in its hunt for truth?
My memory is it's written on the floor. Am I wrong about that? I don't know. It's been...
You're there. That was your building, man. Yeah,
that's not the main entrance you use, because it's like the part... Well, I don't have a lot to talk about that, but you don't go through that entrance a lot. It's like it's like the ceremonial entrance they take diplomats through. If you're a worker bee, you go through the back way. Sorry, what was the question? I got distracted. What was it?
That phrase that you shall know the truth and the truth shall set you free. Did that verse inform your work before comics? And how does it inform Strange Adventures in its hunt for the truth?
Yeah, no, that's because it's written it's in the same room that the stars are on the wall. And when I entered the CIA, we had just lost the first person we lost in a while in Afghanistan, the famous guy who we all watched on TV die. And so I remember seeing that sort of star up on the wall and being like, that guy was in CIA. You know, I think I was class 11. He was class 4. So he was just, like 3 years ahead of me.
Wow.
So you're just like, that could be me. And not only can it be me, but I want it to be me. Because, when you're 22 or 23, you're like, I want to be the guy that's on the edge of that sword.
Yeah.
That does set me free because, I think that's true. If we can get, having just watched that debate, if we could get some sense of truth into this country, that's the biggest problem. And that's the number one thing fascists do. Hannah Arendt, it's all combined from the debate to Hannah Arendt. That's the number one thing fascists do is they make you think not that their truth is true, but that there is no truth. That's what Hannah Arendt said. Like that's what she said. Like they lie to you all the time, not to convince you of the lies, but to convince you that no one will tell you the truth, and that therefore nothing matters, and therefore only power matters. The truth doesn't matter, power matters, and we have the power, so we matter. That's totalitarianism 101. I'm gonna lie to you. I'm gonna lie to your face, and you're gonna think that everybody else is lying to you, so you don't care about anything except power, and I have power, and so be attracted to me. And so,
right.
Yeah. And I think what we have to get back to is the fucking truth. And that's what the fight's. Because you know what, fucking fascism, you know what happened? They fucking lost. We kicked their fucking asses, and we'll do it again.
We'll do it again. Absolutely. No, I agree, man. Ted that wants to know for Shang-Chi, Master of Kung Fu. Did you prefer? Let's see. Were you a fan of that? Doug Munch, Paul Gulacy?
No. Growing up, I was very nerdy and only into superheroes, so I missed a lot of. I've gone back and read a lot of that stuff, but I have recently I did a deep read into Conan. I did like a month of Conan because I totally missed that growing up. So I read a ton of Roy Thomas's Conan. Yeah. So, but eventually I'll get to the Kung Fu comics.
Okay. Yeah, I was a fan, and I'll be honest, some of it doesn't age well because it definitely had that. Asian scare period, and a lot of it did kind of inform the work of the 70s in that same way that Christopher Lee played Fu Manchu and things like that. So be aware of that. But no, I mean, there's some really great stuff in there. I'm a massive Doug Munch writer fan. He also Munch and Gulacy had a great Batman run as well as their Shang-Chi stuff, and I think a lot of their Shang-Chi stuff is terrific.
Munch could tell a good story, man. He was on Thor for a while. He did some great Thor stuff.
Moon Knight.
He did Moon Knight. Yeah. I remember when I was a kid, if I saw Munch's name, I knew I was getting a solid story.
So there you go.
But I knew it was a solid story. I think that was Munch.
Now, we did address this earlier, but you're not involved with the WandaVision show at all.
No, I am not in any way involved. Except to watch it on the commercials and to see Gabriel's art recreated in comics, recreated on the big screen.
Yeah.
So no. And my greatest hope for that show, as a creator, is that people watch it and then maybe read my book, because I'm super proud of Vision, and it exists and it's beautiful.
Has anyone from Marvel talked to you about WandaVision at all?
No, they have. Except, Marvel reached out because they're using my dog that I created. Of all things, of all the characters I created, the first one to screen is a dog called Sparky that I named after Charles Schultz. So they reached out to tell me that they were doing that because I get paid for it.
Okay. And to wrap up, Magic K, unfortunately, I'm going to suggest that you rewind with this question regarding the Rorschach series and that philosopher that you mentioned that Tom has already spoken in detail about. So go and rewind back and get the answer to that question. And with that, because it is almost 2:00 Tom's time, I'm going to let him go.
All right. I guess I have to go. Yeah.
Man. I feel bad.
We didn't even talk Bing Crosby. We didn't even talk. Oh, we have so much. I'll come back. And, John and I are planning on doing the Star Trek review watch. I got to do that.
Yeah. Well, first of all, let's I'll text you this week and we'll figure out a day for Star Trek.
We're gonna watch the old. I watched the old series growing up because it was on at 6:00, and that was when I was allowed to turn on the TV. So I watched it, but I haven't watched it since I was 11 or 12, except for the 4 or 5 episodes we all watch over and over again. I haven't watched the bad other 36 episodes, so I want to watch that again. I watched the first 5, and boy, there's some terrible shit in there, but brilliant acting and set design and just terrible writing, and
some good writing.
No. Yeah, some good writing. Gene Roddenberry had one plot. He had one plot, and once you see that he had everything is like. The Enterprise encounters something. They don't know what it is. It seems to have infinite power. We're amazed that it has infinite power. Wait, is it God? Oh, it's not God. It's just some random thing. And then they go away. That's every Gene Roddenberry plot.
Pretty much.
The first 2 acts are them just being like, I can't believe that just happened. Only God could do that. And even Star Trek 1, that's the plot. Is it God? No, it's Voyager. It's like
though what I like about the first movie is I like where the fact that the trio they're all so, away from the Enterprise and in their personal lives. And that when they're first together, they're kind of bumping into each other. But then eventually things settle down and they figure out that that all 3 need each other. And that epiphany that Spock has that carries through the rest of the time Nimoy portrays the character, Spock finally understands both sides of his nature. And realizes that he needs to be both human and logical at the same time to be the best person he could be.
Did that happen? I think I missed it because I fell asleep during the parts where we're staring at the ship for 15 minutes.
Even Robert Wise went back. Did you ever see the recut that he did?
No.
It's better, yeah, because they cut out a lot of the.
Look out the window! Look out the window! It's like, and it's all just Monty Python. It's just a model. Yeah, I know.
Exactly. It is. You're 100% right. But you know the story, I'm sure. Behind the scenes, they were set on that early December release date. And if they didn't make it, all the movie theaters would have sued Paramount and won because it was in their contract that no matter what, come hell or high water, they're getting that movie that date. And they literally were pasting that movie together like a handful of days before they had to be in the film cans and sent all across the country. So that's why it's so long and tedious at parts. But I do think that there's, at the core of it, there really is a real Star Trek story in a way that the other movies, it always eluded the other movies, that at least there was a Gene Roddenberry-esque classic sci-fi problem.
Yeah,
but,
what is this big bad? Is it God? No, it's something else. I get it.
Yeah.
It's the Roddenberry plot.
No, you're right. And also, the whole Nomad plot. It's the same plot as the Nomad episode. Sterilize. Good stuff. You're killing me. Yeah. All right, my man. Anyway. There you go. We'll wrap on that. And
we'll wrap up. Oh, wait. Let me just say, if you're a Word Balloon listener, subscribe to the Patreon. I am a subscriber. John is putting out incredible podcasts. Please keep this man employed. He's kind and generous, and he brings this community together. So go out there and donate some money and fucking vote. So those 2 things.
Seriously, man, I've always appreciated the fact that you've enjoyed the show and that you support the show the way that you do and that you promote the show the way you do. So Thank you. And good Lord, we could do this every week.
Every week, I love talking.
And we could talk about Ben Crosby and everything. And truly, thank God we got video, because not seeing you the couple times a year that has become our tradition in the last 10 years has been great. I'm glad that we hung out at the last convention of 2020. Although I guess they're talking about an LA show by in December.
Don't do it. If you're a comic creator, don't do that. Don't. If you go to a show and a fan comes to sign your book and they get sick and they bring it home to their grandfather, don't. You're killing people. Don't do that. Don't do that.
Oh, thanks, John Holland. That's very nice. He's a Word Balloon Leaguer as well. Everyone should support this show. Kind words. I appreciate that, John. Thank you very, very much. Yeah, man. Well, Tom will be back regardless. Also, not only to start talking about the original series, but Tom will be part of Baltimore Comic-Con with 2 great panels, and we appreciate that very much. So more details to come.
Bad I said you might. I guess you can go to Comic-Con. I'm not gonna tell you what to do. I'm sorry. I get extreme at 2 a.m. I don't mean. I apologize for my extremities and the don't go. If you want to go, you do. I'm sure they'll make it as safe as they can make it, and if they tell you it's safe, it's safe. Whatever. I'm sorry for being overreacting. I don't know.
No, it's all good. Again, hey, as was said in the debate, literally one after the other, Biden. I just want everybody to be safe. Trump. I brought back the NFL. I brought back football. Priorities. Absolutely. Tom King, thank you very much. I will text you this week. Go to bed.
Good night, John.
Good night, buddy. Good night, everybody. Thank you very much for watching Word Balloon Live. Vita Ayala joins us tomorrow night. That's going to be a lot of fun. We'll watch Lower Decks together and review it. And also To the Outer Limits will be late Thursday night. And Friday, my buddy Dave Baker will be joining us to talk about his Star Trek comic series for IDW. How about that? Never enough Star Trek talk on Word Balloon, as you well know. Everybody take care.